unique and stands out. As for why to hang Lao Fan's photos from his patrol days in the shop, it's naturally to attract traffic. Many veterans were once reprimanded by patrol officers in the military. Phrases like "Comrade, please wait," and "Comrade, please show your identification," are nightmares for many. The patrol officers, as defenders of military discipline, are either offending someone or on their way to offend someone every day. It is said that a qualified patrol officer must have offended at least a whole regiment of people. Thus, during the demobilization season, patrol officers have to leave early. Despite this, many enthusiastic veterans still want to bring some local specialties to greet them. So, at this point, patrol barbecue becomes a guiding light. Once this sign is up, many local retired veterans can find it just by following their noses. Now that they're here, wouldn't they want to order a couple of skewers? Maybe a plate of cucumber salad? Perhaps a couple of small beers to enjoy? Having someone who has been a patrol officer serve you food, how impressive is that? Can a meal like this not be enjoyable and refreshing? Of course, this gimmick is only temporary. Controlling the taste and having effective marketing strategies are the key points. Therefore, Xin Feng's second suggestion to Lao Fan is to offer a complimentary small portion of peanuts and cold seaweed strips to customers as soon as they enter the shop. At the end, give them a small drink, a piece of candy, or a small discount voucher. The cost is basically negligible, but can leave a good impression on customers. In psychology, this is known as the peak end rule. In simple terms, if the peak and conclusion of an experience are pleasant, then your overall feeling about that experience will also be positive. Even if the food at this restaurant is average, one still feels that the meal is quite good. The extreme example of this principle is the Hot Pot Giant, a certain brand. This is also why, despite the restaurant's average hot pot taste and expensive broth, many young people still choose to go there. At that moment, Xin Feng suddenly thought that if he hadn't joined the army, but instead opened a business outside, with his intelligence, he would definitely make a fortune. 20 minutes later, the car gradually left the main road. The path became more secluded, and the buildings on both sides became fewer. Looking at the increasingly dense forest around him, Xin Feng was puzzled. "Company commander, are you planning to sell me off to the deep mountains?" Gu Xiong glanced at him and laughed. "You're not worth that much. I'm here to show you the world." "Show me the world?" At that moment, a sign indicating a military-restricted area suddenly appeared ahead. After driving a bit further, they encountered a roadblock and two armed sentries. Gu Xiong lowered the car window, handed over the documents, and only then did the sentries move the roadblock to let them pass. Not long after, they reached an impressive gate. After another round of identity verification and a phone call for confirmation, the gate attendant finally opened the gate. "Company commander, what kind of place is this? Why is the security so strict?" Seeing Xin Feng's surprised expression, Gu Xiong smiled slightly and said, "Have you heard of the Thunder Leopard Special Forces?" "This is the Special Forces?" Xin Feng was momentarily taken aback. "You brought me here to join the Special Forces? Weren't you asking for my advice as your strategist?" "Wait a minute, you're overthinking it." Gu Xiong seemed to sense Xin Feng's wild imagination. "She's just a civilian staff member here, a non-combatant." Xin Feng responded with an "oh," and then didn't ask any further questions. However, his gaze towards the outside was still filled with curiosity. He wanted to see just how different the Special Forces were from regular troops. The car finally stopped at the side of an office building. As soon as Xin Feng got out of the car, he heard shouts and sounds of combat coming from not far away. Gu Xiong first ran to the building to inquire, then quickly returned to lead Xin Feng forward. Passing through the office building, they arrived at a spacious training ground. The training ground was significantly larger than that of a new recruit company, with more training equipment. At that moment, the sounds of combat filled the air. As a company of soldiers was engaged in training, some were smashing bottles with their heads, some were breaking bricks with one hand, and others were tearing stainless steel basins apart. Particularly, several groups were engaged in hand-to-hand combat in the sandpit, with punches landing hard enough to draw blood. Xin Feng watched with a tingling sensation on his scalp. Is Special Forces training always this brutal? In comparison, the new recruit company's marching and standing still seemed like child's play. "Company commander, is the person we're looking for not here?" Xin Feng was confused about why the commander had brought him here. "There she is." Gu Xiong nodded towards a figure in the distance. "The chubby-faced lieutenant over there is Zhu Huihui." At this moment, Gu Xiong's face was as gentle as water, as if he could melt away. "She is the white moonlight in my heart." Xin Feng followed his gaze and suddenly widened his eyes in shock. "Squad leader? You mean that warrior who can tear apart a stainless steel basin with bare hands and chop 3 red bricks with one hand is your dream girl? You call this a civilian? You call this a non-combatant? This is clearly a female tiger." Chapter 70. Coming well, unable to return? In the Thunder Leopard Special Operations Brigade, Operations Information Department, Zhu Huihui handed a cup of water to Gu Xiong. "Sorry to keep you waiting. Here, have some water." Gu Xiong took the paper cup and politely said, "It's my bad luck to come at the wrong time, just in time for your training." Then, Zhu Huihui took out 2 folders from the drawer and handed them to him. "This is the integrated training material you wanted. Although it's from our Thunder Leopards autumn-winter training content 2 years ago, it should still be quite helpful for your unit. Gu Xiong took it and immediately opened it eagerly. The Thunder Leopard Special Operations Brigade is one of the top combat forces in the military region. Its training content and subjects far exceed those of regular troops. Gu Xiong had sought connections for a long time to obtain this information. Although it was just from 2 years ago, its value was still undeniable. The more he read, the more excited and engaged he became. Whenever he encountered something he didn't quite understand, he would ask questions, and Zhu Huihui would do her best to clarify. Although reconnaissance and special forces share the same roots, there are still some differences over time. 20 minutes later, Gu Xiong excitedly closed the material. He stood up, saluted, and extended his hand toward Zhu Huihui. She was taken aback by his gesture, but politely shook his hand. Gu Xiong smiled and thanked her. Thank you, Officer Zhu. With this information, our unit's strength will definitely reach a new level. You're welcome. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me anytime. Okay, sorry for the trouble. Gu Xiong put on his hat. If there's nothing else, I won't disturb you. With that, he turned and left the office without looking back. However, such an unusual behavior made Zhu Huihui feel quite uncomfortable. She had expected Gu Xiong to be like before, sticking to her like gum and saying some meaningless things. But today, he seemed as if he was seeing her for the first time. In the past, he called her an old classmate. Today, he addressed her as Officer Zhu. This unfamiliarity suddenly made Zhu Huihui feel uneasy. In the corridor, Qin Feng saw the squad leader come out of the office and immediately approached him. Squad leader, hurry up. I'm afraid I won't be able to hold it in. Gu Xiong hurriedly quickened his pace into small steps. Qin Feng quickly followed with a wry smile, asking how it went. After learning that the squad leader had maintained composure and hadn't said anything unnecessary, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Sure, earlier in the office, Gu Xiong's indifference was all an act. Qin Feng asked him to act like a stranger when meeting Zhu Huihui for the first time. Why do this? Naturally, it was to create a sense of contrast. A person who has been overly attentive suddenly stops, treating you like a stranger. Even if the girl has no feelings for you, the sudden change will still catch her off guard. Although the squad leader, this strong woman, is not particularly beautiful and is known for her strength, as long as she has feminine hormones, she cannot escape this rule. As for why Qin Feng has such deep insights into love and relationships, it's because all of this is drawn from the original owner's memories of flirting techniques. When the memories were integrated, this knowledge came along with it. At this moment, Gu Xiong was extremely anxious, fearing he would be exposed. So he hurriedly brought Qin Feng downstairs. Just as they stepped out of the Operations Information Department, a voice suddenly called out from behind. Wait! Gu Xiong's body stiffened, and he slowly turned around. But at Qin Feng's reminder, he instantly put on a cold expression. Is there something else, Zhu officer? Zhu Huihui took a deep breath and smiled, saying, this afternoon at 3 o'clock, our department has a public lecture discussing the theories of modern warfare. I think this lecture might help you better understand the materials you have. If you want to go, I can help you apply for a spot. Absolutely. Gu Xiong almost blurted out. On one hand, he could gain useful knowledge, and on the other hand, he could spend more time with Zhu Huihui. It's a win-win. Let me just tell my team a few things, and I'll find you in the office later. Okay, I'll go apply for you now. As Zhu Huihui turned to leave, Gu Xiong immediately grabbed Qin Feng and rushed to the car. He bit his fist with his mouth, his right foot tapping on the ground, silently shouting in excitement. She invited me to stay. She invited me to stay. She wants to create an opportunity to spend time with me. What should I do? What should I do next? Strategist, help me out. Give me some advice. Seeing the squad leader so overly excited, Qin Feng's eyelids twitched. He wondered if the squad leader would give up and surrender if he ran into someone like Leba on the drill field. Squad leader, just remember the 3 words I taught you. Politeness, courtesy, and keep smiling. Even if she knows you like her, never let it show. That will pique her curiosity. Got it. Gu Xiong nodded vigorously like a chick pecking at rice. Initially, he had some doubts about Qin Feng's advice, but now he believed every word without question. He even pondered over every punctuation mark. By the way, there's one very important question. What? Upon hearing Qin Feng's words, Gu Xiong immediately calmed down and looked at him seriously. Qin Feng felt somewhat helpless. Squad leader, what am I supposed to do while you're here attending the briefing? Even someone like Captain Gu Xiong has to submit an application to attend classes. As a new recruit, I definitely won't even be allowed through the door. And these academic discussion meetings often last for several hours. It's quite normal for them to continue through dinner. I can't just wait in the car for that long. Can I? Gu Xiong smiled awkwardly. I got so excited that I forgot about you. How about this? You can drive my car back. Squad leader, are you serious? Although Qin Feng could drive, he had just turned 18 and had graduated from high school, but hadn't had the chance to get a driver's license before joining the military. He could drive, but if he got stopped by traffic police or patrol officers halfway, it would be a big problem. Gu Xiong thought for a moment. Let's do it this way. You just. Darn it. With the opposite sex, There's no humanity. Qin Feng left the special operations camp and walked down the road toward the mountain. He was picked up by a special car when he arrived. But now he had to take the bus back. It was simply absurd. After walking for more than 30 minutes, Qin Feng finally saw a bus stop by the roadside. Since it was a rural urban bus, there was only one every half hour. When the bus door opened, Qin Feng was surprised to find that all the elderly passengers were looking at him. It was then that he realized how eye-catching his green military uniform was. Throughout the journey, he was offered apples and even had people trying to introduce him to potential partners, which made him feel a bit embarrassed. 40 minutes later, the bus arrived at the city's main bus terminal. After getting off, Qin Feng went to a newsstand to buy a bottle of water. Just as he opened it and was about to take a sip, a cold voice suddenly came from behind him. "Comrade, please wait." Qin Feng turned around and found that it was two patrol officers in white hats. The patrol's jurisdiction was not limited to the camp. They could also operate outside. They could check on soldiers on leave or speeding military vehicles. Qin Feng didn't expect to encounter patrol officers at the bus station. So he quickly stood up straight and saluted. "Good day, squad leaders." "Hello, please show your identification," one of the officers said sternly while holding a clipboard. Qin Feng noticed that their gazes were filled with scrutiny, as if they were treating him like a thief. It is well known that new recruits are not allowed to go out during training. And here he was, a recruit without any insignia on his shoulders. Appearing at the bus station at such a time, it was indeed quite unusual. It seemed they might think he had escaped. Qin Feng awkwardly said, "Squad leaders, I didn't bring my military ID." Upon hearing this, the two patrol officers immediately became alert. Initially, they suspected Qin Feng of having escaped. Now, they began to doubt whether he was a genuine soldier or an imposter. Just then, Qin Feng quickly pulled out a note that the squad leader had prepared in advance. After seeing the stamp on it, the expressions of the two officers finally returned to normal. They completed the information registration, asked about his reason for being out, and ensured everything was fine before allowing Qin Feng to leave. He also reminded him to always pay attention to military discipline, even when outside. Watching the two inspectors leave, Qin Feng finally understood why so many soldiers disliked the white hats. If it were anyone else, being publicly questioned and educated like that would certainly feel uncomfortable. Arriving at the roadside, Qin Feng raised his hand to hail a taxi. Wearing this camouflage uniform on a bus would be too eye-catching. It was better to be low-key, especially since the company would reimburse the taxi fare. However, Qin Feng didn't expect that the taxi driver would be just as enthusiastic upon seeing his military uniform. The driver kept trying to strike up a conversation. He asked how the current treatment in the military was, whether the training was tough, and if veterans bullied newcomers. He also mentioned that his child was attending a vocational college but had slight myopia and wondered if he could enlist. Qin Feng found himself enduring the conversation, not even getting a chance to doze off. "Young man, there's road construction ahead. We'll have to detour through the old city. I'll reduce the fare for the extra distance. Is that okay?" "No problem. Just go whatever way is convenient." "Oh, our comrades in the military are so easygoing. I once had a passenger who was quite difficult to deal with." Qin Feng was starting to struggle with the driver's enthusiasm, so he chose to go quiet. But just as he was looking out the window, lost in thought, a series of piercing sirens suddenly rang from behind. Shortly after, several red fire trucks sped past. The driver leaned out to take a look and then shook his head, saying, "Wow, so many fire trucks. It seems like a big deal." As the sound of the sirens faded away, Qin Feng felt a hint of unease. So many fire trucks had been deployed, he wondered what major incident had occurred. In any case, he hoped for everyone's safety. He silently prayed for a moment. The taxi continued forward and soon reached an old area of the city. Because the original route was under construction, they had to detour through the old district. It was nearly 5 o'clock, right when schools were letting out and workers were finishing their shifts. The number of pedestrians and electric bikes on the road noticeably increased, and the taxi moved at a snail's pace. Qin Feng wasn't too anxious since the traffic jam was just in this section. Ahead was a 4-lane road. He turned his head to look at the shops lining the streets, which were mostly specialty snack and clothing stores. They not only carried the memories of a city, but also a vibrant atmosphere. Above these street-level shops were various tutoring centers, after-school programs, and a few massage parlors. Qin Feng rolled down the window and glanced around, noticing at least 7 or 8 tutoring centers in sight. There were classes for the Guzheng, Go, mathematics competitions, and violin. This made him sigh. Today, as children really had it tough, having to attend tutoring classes after school. "Hello, Uncle Soldier." Suddenly, a little girl wearing a red scarf waved at Qin Feng from outside the car window. Qin Feng quickly waved at the sweet-smiling little girl. "Hello? Just got out of school?" "Yes, I'm going to my Go class. Thank you to the soldiers for protecting our country." "Not at all. You all have it much harder with your studies." Qin Feng chuckled, genuinely feeling that going to school was much tougher than being a soldier. After all, those elementary math problems and reading comprehension tasks were quite challenging. The girl hurried off to class. At that moment, Qin Feng noticed her shoelace was untied. He wanted to remind her, but she had already run far away. Qin Feng shook his head with a smile, unable to help but reflect. Throughout this journey, his military uniform had garnered him so much attention. Besides a couple of people wearing white hats, everyone he met was so friendly and warm. The elderly, the drivers, and this little girl were all the same. He felt he hadn't done anything but still basked in the glory of the military. Qin Feng touched his uniform, a proud smile appearing on his face. Once again, he felt proud to be a soldier of his nation. All right, I've made up my mind. At that moment, the driver suddenly hit the steering wheel, seriously saying, "Let my son join the army too. What is the point of studying at a college? A real man should protect the country." Qin Feng laughed heartily, but before he could respond, a loud bang resonated ahead. The taxi's windows vibrated violently, and Qin Feng's mind went blank. Buzz. He could no longer hear anything. Only a sharp electrical sound remained. The scene before him seemed to turn into a slideshow, flashing quickly. Qin Feng didn't even remember how he pushed the door open and got out of the car. All he felt was a sharp pain in his ears and a throbbing headache. With his left hand on the car door and his right hand slapping his head a couple of times, his vision and hearing gradually returned to normal. However, the moment he could clearly see the scene in front of him, Qin Feng's pupils contracted sharply, and his heart seemed to stop. Help! Help me! The once lively street was filled with cries of despair, blending into a cacophony of wails. The ground was littered with rubble and shattered glass, scattered electric bikes, and private cars with broken windows. The most devastating sight was a small restaurant ahead, which could only be described as shattered. A gas leak had triggered an explosion. Qin Feng suddenly recalled having seen similar news in his past life. Quick, save the people. In that moment, he rushed towards the injured. His roar brought the crowd's attention back. When they recognized Qin Feng's military identity, it was as if they saw a pillar of strength and immediately surged forward to assist. Nearby shopkeepers and passers-by extended their hands to help. Some were rescuing the injured, while others were calling for help. Some quickly dialed the fire department. What? They can't get here anytime soon? 3 fire trucks are tied up with a situation involving 2 young people arguing and threatening to jump off a building in the south of the city. In the Old Town area, a gas explosion occurred, and half the street was completely destroyed. Why are you still worrying about some young people arguing? Hurry up and help. Be gentle, move carefully. At this moment, Qin Feng was working with the previous driver to lift a seriously injured woman into the back seat of a taxi. Then, they helped an elderly man with lighter injuries into the front passenger seat. Driver, please. What are you talking about? We are all citizens of this country. Let us go. The driver slowly turned the car around, honking the horn to clear the way, and quickly headed towards the hospital. Saving lives is as urgent as putting out a fire. Every second counts. As for the fear of being blamed later, who cares? There are military personnel here. In the rescue operation, every second was critical, and more people joined in at Qin Feng's call. Some with lighter injuries were already sent to nearby hospitals on electric bikes. Those who couldn't assess their injuries or were unconscious were carefully moved to safety. After all, with a gas explosion, no one knew if there would be another one. At that moment, every person involved in the rescue was essentially dancing on the edge of a volcano. But even so, no one backed down. People always managed to unite and face every challenge bravely in times of crisis. Just then, Qin Feng noticed a private car with shattered windows. The airbags had deployed, and the young driver was slumped over the steering wheel, appearing dazed. He pulled on the car door, but it wouldn't budge. The explosion's shockwave had warped the door. Seeing blood pooling on the young man's head, Qin Feng feared for his life. He had no choice but to find tools to force it open. Thank you. After the young man was rescued, he groggily thanked Qin Feng. However, Qin Feng didn't have time to respond and immediately went to check on others. The situation was more severe than he had imagined. The explosion had devastated nearly half the street. But as more people joined to help, the situation gradually improved. At that moment, Qin Feng saw a pink sneaker, approximately size 32, lying by his feet, with its laces untied. His heart sank, and he felt a tightening sensation in his chest, struggling to breathe. His nose began to sting, and his eyes turned red. Though hesitant, he walked over to the curb. Kneeling down, he cried as he put the shoe on and carefully tied the laces for her. Finally, he took off his camouflage uniform and gently covered her with it, preserving the last bit of dignity for the lovely little girl. Uncle Soldier, thank you for protecting our home and country. Qin Feng's mind uncontrollably flashed back to that adorable smiling face. Boom. Just then, another explosion echoed from behind. Qin Feng wiped away his tears and turned back in shock. In the store where the explosion had previously occurred, a fierce fire suddenly erupted. The flames surged forward like a creeping vine, blocking the exits nearby and rapidly advancing towards the second floor. The third and fourth floors housed an early childhood education training center. Chapter 72, Blood and Fire, will lead to his rebirth. Yes, understood. I have already led the team, and we are rushing to the scene at full speed. Once we arrive, we will immediately begin rescue operations. Don't worry. We will reach the scene in no more than 10 minutes. Just as Captain Hong Ming hung up the phone, a firefighter driving beside him weakly said, "Captain, 10 minutes. We definitely want to make it. We have to do our best to get there, even if we can't make it. Do you understand the importance of human life?" Yes, yes. The firefighter driving was sprayed with saliva and immediately stepped on the gas. But as they accelerated, he remained vigilant, always paying attention to the traffic around them. Bang! Hong Ming slammed his fist on the car door, cursing under his breath. Not only the captain, but the other firefighters in the vehicle were equally furious. Not long ago, they had received a fire alarm reporting that in a certain neighborhood in the southern part of the city, a couple was arguing and threatening to jump from the building, and there was also a fire. Due to the high-rise building fire situation, in addition to the necessary rescue personnel, the aerial ladder had to be deployed, along with air cushions. However, when they arrived on the scene and understood the situation, their worldview shattered. It turned out that the girl had cheated, and the boy was trying to break up with her. As a result, the girl threatened the boy by saying she would jump and set fire to the curtains in the room. Although the situation was absurd, lives still needed to be saved, and the fire had to be extinguished. Ultimately, after setting up the aerial ladder and laying out the air cushion, the girl finally descended from the air conditioning unit. She then received a silver bracelet and a job that guaranteed her income for 3 to 10 years. If this kind of incident happened during normal times, everyone would just grumble about it internally. But coincidentally, at the same time, an explosion occurred in the old city, creating a very urgent situation. If they hadn't gone to the southern district, they would have already reached the scene by now, swiftly starting rescue operations and extinguishing the fire. Meanwhile, the 2 remaining fire trucks from their team were still extinguishing a fire at a glove factory on the outskirts of the city. As of now, the open flames had just been extinguished, and they had to continue checking for potential hazards, leaving them no time to rush back. Although fire trucks from neighboring districts were already on their way, it was not enough to solve the immediate crisis. Injuries and fire needed urgent attention. Therefore, at this moment, the 3 fire trucks on their side had become the only hope for rescue at the scene. Meanwhile, the small lecture hall of the Thunder Leopard Special Forces was filled with people. All the attendees were military officers, ranging from a colonel to a lieutenant. Without exception, everyone was listening attentively and taking detailed notes. The old general on stage, though his hair was gray, was still energetic while giving the lecture. During the 10-minute break, some people drank water, some went to the restroom, while others engaged in lively discussions about the questions raised by the old general. "How is it? Was it worth coming?" Zhu Huihui asked with a smile. "Yes, this trip was definitely worthwhile, full of valuable insights. That's why they say experience matters," Gu Zhiyong responded. Although there are many young talents in the current military, those seasoned veterans who have been on the battlefield are also keeping up with the times. Gu Zhiyong looked at his notes, his face beaming with a smile. Zhu Huihui nodded. "Indeed, many tactical ideas are worth our study and reference." Gu Zhiyong continued. "I suddenly feel that my approach during previous drills was a bit too aggressive. If I could, when it comes to military operations, once Gu Zhiyong starts, he can't stop. Not only that, but he also elaborated on some points raised by the senior leader, offering his unique insights, which made Zhu Huihui view him in a new light. This old classmate of hers truly has some skills. By the way, Zhu Huihui suddenly asked curiously, "What about that new recruit who came with you?" "Oh, I sent him back first. You let him go back alone." Seeing Zhu Huihui's surprised expression, Gu Zhiyong shrugged nonchalantly. "What's the problem?" Zhu Huihui frowned slightly. "Old classmate, as the squad leader, you should know that recruits cannot leave the camp, let alone act independently. You let a recruit take such a long ride back alone. Aren't you worried that?" "Why should I be worried?" Gu Zhiyong interrupted her. "I trust my soldiers. Besides, this recruit is different from the others. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought him to meet you all today." "Different? How is he different?" Zhu Huihui clearly seemed skeptical. If just being good at making beds and marching in line counts as different, then sure, that's quite different. For some reason, Gu Zhiyong felt a bit annoyed by Zhu Huihui's sarcastic tone. "You can criticize me, but please don't belittle my soldier." He continued. "This recruit is not only excellent in discipline and training, but he also performs outstandingly on the front lines. For example, is he clever or resourceful?" Zhu Huihui wasn't trying to argue with Gu Zhiyong. Rather, from her perspective, such traits only counted as minor cleverness. Of course, it's understandable that Zhu Huihui judged people based on appearances. After spending a long time in special forces, her standards had naturally risen. That new recruit was so surprised to see them, non-combat personnel, breaking bricks and tearing apart basins in the afternoon. If he were to witness actual combat training, he would probably be completely stunned. However, she didn't realize that the point of Qin Feng's surprise wasn't actually their training. It was because he couldn't fathom that the white moonlight the squad leader liked turned out to be a fierce woman. After all, When people hear the term white moonlight, they typically envision someone with flowing long hair, wearing a white dress, gentle and graceful. But here, it turned into someone tearing apart basins. It was precisely this little misunderstanding that led Zhu Huihui to instinctively think that the recruit Gu Xiong brought was inexperienced and like a country bumpkin. At best, the training is decent, and he has the ability to read the room, which is why he is treated like a junior companion. However, at this moment, Gu Xiong spoke very seriously and told her, "You haven't interacted with him, so you don't understand. This soldier is the best new recruit I've seen in all my years of service, without exception." Such a high evaluation? Zhu Huihui was somewhat surprised. Yes. Gu Xiong turned his gaze straight ahead and said earnestly, "Although he's just a new recruit, he possesses the ability to stand on his own. Deep down, he embodies the spirit of a soldier even more than some veterans. With just one trial by fire, he will become a good steel. Just one experience of bloodshed will catalyze his rapid growth." Zhu Huihui felt goosebumps from his words. Yet, it also piqued her curiosity about the new recruit named Qin Feng. How exceptional must he be to receive such high praise from someone like Gu Xiong? Trial by fire? Growth through bloodshed? Zhu Huihui shook her head with a smile. Isn't that a bit too far-fetched for a new recruit? Gu Xiong took a deep breath. Yes. But there will always be opportunities. After all, he has a long road ahead. Who will save us? Help! Help! Grandma! Grandma! Mom! Save me! In just a short moment, the second floor had already been engulfed in flames. The flames surged with the wind, accompanied by thick black smoke, approaching the early education center on the third floor. At this moment, the windows on the fourth floor were filled with young faces blackened by smoke. Parents below, who had come to pick up their children with toys and snacks, were horrified at the sight, especially when they heard the children's cries for help. Their hearts shattered. Tian, don't be afraid. Mommy is coming to save you." A woman, disregarding everything, rushed toward the fire. But at that moment, the entrance had already been consumed by flames, forming a wall of fire. Two traffic police officers who had arrived earlier to maintain order hurriedly tried to stop her. "You can't go in. You can't go in. It's dangerous." "I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of anything. I want to save my daughter. Let me go. Please let me go." There were many parents like her, losing control of their emotions. For parents, every child is a piece of their heart. Even if they were trapped in the fire themselves, they would not wish their child to suffer even a little. At that moment, many people were throwing water at the fire, but it was futile. The flames, ignited by oil, could only be extinguished with foam or carbon dioxide extinguishers. Nothing else would work. Although some had brought extinguishers from nearby stores to try to put out the fire, in the face of flames that were growing larger and temperatures rising higher. Without protective gear, ordinary people simply couldn't approach the fire, let alone extinguish it. "Who will save my child? Who will save my child?" Many parents knelt on the ground, crying heart-wrenchingly, unable to speak. The onlookers felt equally tormented and distressed at the scene. But before the fire truck arrived, they could do nothing but pray in their hearts. Look, at this moment, a figure wrapped in a blanket, holding a fire extinguisher, charged straight towards the raging flames amidst the crowd's exclamations. Feeling the searing heat and watching the rapidly approaching fire, Qin Feng's eyes were resolute, as if he were unafraid of death. Chapter 73. Opening a life path for the children with a mortal body. The heat wave hit him like a wall. It felt as if it would dry up every drop of moisture on Qin Feng's face. Even though he was hiding under the soaked blanket, he could still feel the intense heat penetrating to his bones. The sound of his hair sizzling filled the air, releasing a burnt smell. His cracked lips were lined with blood, and a large area of his face was reddened by the high temperature. Yet, despite all this, he did not take a single step back. With one hand in front and the other behind, he resembled a fearless warrior raising a bayonet to intimidate the enemy. Aiming the nozzle of the carbon dioxide extinguisher at the fire source, he sprayed continuously. He knew his personal strength was insignificant and how small he was in the face of disaster. But he still wanted to open a life path for the children upstairs with his mortal body as much as possible. No more deaths, it really couldn't happen again. Grinding his teeth, Qin Feng braved the scorching heat and emptied a bottle of fire extinguisher. Thanks to his efforts, the flames at the entrance had noticeably diminished, and the scorching temperature had decreased significantly. He tossed the hot, empty bottle behind him, paying no mind to the burns on his hands. With renewed determination, he opened a second fire extinguisher and continued to advance towards the searing source. As the carbon dioxide continued to cover the flames, the lack of oxygen began to reduce the fire at the entrance gradually. Two charred wooden doors, originally open, were now closed due to the explosion damaging the hinges, and subsequently ignited by the spreading fire from next door, forming a firewall. Seeing the flames at the entrance weakening, the onlookers finally saw hope. Those with fire extinguishers in their cars, come help. A man wearing sunglasses shouted. He was the first to rush forward with a small extinguisher taken from his vehicle. Soon, more and more people joined Qin Feng in extinguishing the fire, bringing their extinguishers from their cars. Although these car-mounted extinguishers were small and their effect minimal, the fire at the entrance was now under control. What they needed to do was completely extinguish the flames on the doors and continuously cool down to prevent the fire from the adjacent restaurant from spreading again. With a loud bang, Chin Feng kicked open the 2 entrance doors with all his might. The wooden doors had already been burned to charcoal. After the kick, they shattered into pieces scattered on the ground. But at that moment, thick black smoke poured out like a hellish ghost, forcing everyone to retreat. Once again, they looked towards the entrance, where the interior had transformed into an unfathomable black hole. Even if this place is a bottomless pit, and even if this road leads to hell, many parents still rush in without hesitation, because upstairs is their only hope, and there are so many children waiting for them to rescue. But in the end, all these people were stopped by Chin Feng and several traffic police officers. I understand your eagerness to save lives, but we can't all go up. Otherwise, it won't be a rescue, but rather chaos. Now, listen to me, a few young people. Cover your mouths and noses with wet towels and come up with me. We will definitely save all the children. Chin Feng's throat was dried up by the previous heat wave, leaving him with barely a trace of saliva. Yet, even so, he continued to shout hoarsely with all his might, because Chin Feng knew that the more chaotic the situation, the more order had to be maintained. At such times, someone must step up to stabilize the scene. Otherwise, not only would they fail to save anyone, but even more people could fall into the thick smoke, potentially causing a stampede. If it really came to that, the rescue operation would ultimately turn into an even greater disaster. Fortunately, Chin Feng's military identity had an effect, instantly silencing the crowd. Coupled with his previous actions of rescuing and extinguishing fires, he was at the forefront. At that moment, Chin Feng had become the backbone of the crowd. We support you, comrade soldier. Whatever you say, we will do. You, and you. Take 2 fire extinguishers. Cover your mouths and noses with wet towels, and follow me. Chin Feng selected a few strong young individuals to go up with him for the rescue, while the elderly and women were left below to wait. The early education center had 2 escape routes. One was the elevator, but it was clearly damaged and unusable due to the explosion and fire. The other was the stairs. At this moment, Chin Feng and a few young parents bent down to cover their mouths and noses, using their right hands to feel along the railing, almost crawling as they slowly made their way up. At this moment, Tang Xingjian also maximized his senses to help him find direction. However, when they reached the 2nd floor, Chin Feng clearly felt that there were many cluttered items piled up on the landing of the stairs, including flammable materials like cardboard and wooden furniture. Fortunately, these items had not caught fire. Otherwise, it would have been a real dilemma. At this moment, Chin Feng had no time to hesitate and could only quicken his pace towards the 4th floor. The entrance to the 4th floor was a glass door, and the gap was blocked by wet towels. The teachers had also undergone some first aid training, so although the air inside the early education center was murky, it was much better than the pitch-black smoke outside. Chin Feng looked through the glass door and could just see a group of children standing on stools by the window, calling for help. At that moment, the teachers also noticed Chin Feng and the others coming to the rescue. Upon hearing the teachers' accounts, Chin Feng learned that when the explosion occurred, the children were all in an activity class on the 4th floor. With the impact from the 2nd and 3rd floors being mitigated, the children and teachers on the 4th floor were mostly fine, aside from feeling dizzy and experiencing ringing in their ears. Originally, after the explosion occurred, the teachers were ready to lead the children down the stairs to escape. However, as they reached the ground floor, they found black smoke billowing in the stairwell, and the only exit was blocked by flames. At that moment, no one dared to act recklessly, and they had to return to the 4th floor, using wet towels to seal the door cracks, quietly waiting for rescue. Chin Feng greatly appreciated the teacher's actions, because in a fire, what is truly terrifying is not the flames, but the dense smoke. The vast majority of people do not die from being burned, but rather from choking on smoke while trying to escape. We have temporarily extinguished the fire at the door. The police and medical personnel are below, and the fire brigade is on their way. The fire is about to spread from the 3rd floor to the 4th floor. We need to evacuate quickly. After quickly outlining the critical situation, Chin Feng began to organize a rescue plan. He instructed the teachers to use strips of wet towels to help the children cover their mouths and noses. Then, he tied jump ropes around the children's waists, so that when going down, they wouldn't fall behind due to obstructed visibility. On the street below, the sound of sirens was piercing, and numerous red and blue lights were flashing. The crowd and parents were being evacuated to a safe distance by the police. Medical personnel were swiftly tending to each injured person, lifting the wounded onto stretchers and transporting them to the hospital for emergency care. Hey, fire brigade, when the hell are you going to arrive? A senior officer responsible for maintaining order shouted angrily into the walkie-talkie. Don't talk about 50 seconds. We can't waste even a second now. So many children are trapped in the fire. If something happens, how many families will be shattered? They're out. They're out. Someone in the crowd shouted excitedly. Figures were seen holding hands, rushing out from the black smoke. Seeing those innocent little figures, the parents rushed forward as if they had gone mad. Tian, are you okay? Are you okay? You scared your mom to death. Xiao Liang, my precious grandson. You scared grandma to death. Thank you. Thank you, comrades of the Liberation Army. You've worked hard. Hearing these words of gratitude, Qin Feng felt as if his heart was being pierced by countless knives. Hard. Many people are suffering 100 times more than I am. Qin Feng wiped his eyes fiercely, said nothing, and resolutely dashed back into the thick smoke. There were still many children who had not been rescued. I cannot stop. I cannot stop. At the same time, the first fire truck finally rushed to the scene. Before the vehicle even came to a complete stop, the doors were flung open. A group of fully equipped firefighters in fireproof suits, carrying extinguishers, quickly charged into the smoke. Meanwhile, the firefighting water cannon was aimed at the upper part of the fire source, attempting to stop the spread of the flames by lowering the temperature. But clearly, this method was ineffective. The accumulated grease on the restaurant's exterior walls served as the best accelerant. The water column not only failed to push back the flames, but instead caused a more intense reaction. Thick black smoke mixed with steam continuously rose upward, creating a scene that resembled the end of the world, instilling immense fear. Captain, we can't extinguish it like this. We need foam, shouted the firefighter controlling the water cannon anxiously at team leader Hong Ming. At that moment, Hong Ming had already put on a full set of firefighting gear. We must extinguish it, even if it's difficult. The foam truck is on the way. Before that, we need to control the fire until we safely rescue all the children. After saying this, he grabbed a fire extinguisher and plunged into the thick smoke. With the help of professional firefighters, the rescue operation quickly improved. Qin Feng was finally able to catch his breath. In just a few minutes, along with the teachers, a total of over 40 children were successfully rescued from the upper floors. No lives were in danger anymore, and the collective anxiety of the crowd eased significantly. The next task was to find a way to extinguish the fire and eliminate any safety hazards. The foam truck was on its way, and it was believed that the situation would soon be under control. At this moment, Qin Feng was covered in soot, resembling a crow that had rolled in a pile of coal. Only a bit of camouflage on his pants and his combat boots indicated his military identity. As he rinsed his eyes and nose with bottled water, he also gulped it down. Just a moment ago, without protective gear and a mask, he had made 3 trips through the thick smoke. Not only was his stamina severely depleted, but his respiratory tract felt as if it had swallowed 1,000 needles. If it weren't for the system supporting his body, with his original physical condition, he would have likely collapsed by now. Impressive, young man, you saved so many by yourself. At that moment, team leader Hong Ming, having removed his firefighting suit and wiping the sweat from his forehead, said. Qin Feng glanced at him, wanting to speak, but his throat hurt too much to make a sound. Hong Ming thought he was just too exhausted, so he walked over and handed him a towel to wipe his face. My name is Hong Ming. I used to be in the Border Defense Regiment. I joined the fire service after transitioning. You did really well, young comrade. If it weren't for your leadership, the scene would have been chaotic. By the way, which unit are you from? You must be an officer, right? I must make a call to commend you. Qin Feng swallowed hard a couple of times, his vocal cords feeling like they had been sandpapered. Just as he was about to speak, a sudden shout erupted from nearby. One is missing, one is missing. We counted twice, and we're still short one. There's still a child upstairs. The teachers were almost in tears from anxiety. Almost as soon as the words were spoken, Qin Feng's body instinctively moved. He grabbed a nearby gas mask and rushed back into the impenetrable smoke. At the same moment, a strong wind blew through. The flames, which had been under control, surged once again with the wind and leapt up to the 4th floor. But what's worse is that a spark was carried by the wind and landed on a cardboard box by the 2nd floor window. In the blink of an eye, the clutter in the stairwell was instantly ignited. The fierce flames illuminated the entire corridor. The intense heat forced Hong Ming, who had just donned his protective suit, along with 2 other firefighters, to retreat. Watching the roaring fire dragon writhing in the black smoke and the flames engulfing the 4th floor of the Early Education Center, everyone present felt a lump in their throats. Chapter 74. In my next life, I want to be a soldier. Quick, quick, put out the fire, put it out. A fire hose unfurled on the ground like a rolling dragon. One end was connected to a fire hydrant on the street, while the other was aimed at the fire source on the 2nd floor. As the deflated hose suddenly inflated, a high-pressure water jet punched a hole through the thick smoke. Nearby, 3 firefighters held fire extinguishers, coordinating to enter the corridor to fight the fire. However, the items in the corridor were already flammable, and once ignited, it would quickly become uncontrollable. Even though they were trying hard, it was impossible to extinguish the fire in a short time. Seeing the only escape route blocked by flames, Captain Hong Ming was anxious. It's important to know that the burning flames consume a large amount of oxygen and emit thick black smoke. Either one is extremely deadly for Qin Feng, who had just rushed in, especially for that child. Adults can hold on for a while, but children can't endure for long. Ladder, quickly set up the ladder. Because they missed the best opportunity, it was difficult to extinguish the fire outside. So now, he needed to concentrate all water cannons to weaken the flames on the side as much as possible. This way, they could use the ladder to rescue Qin Feng and that child trapped on the 4th floor. Captain, there's a situation, an emergency situation. Hong Ming turned around, and a firefighter rushed over with a female teacher in distress. But when he heard the report, his soul nearly left his body. There's a gas cylinder on the 4th floor. Why didn't you say it earlier? Hong Ming's roar attracted a lot of attention. At that moment, all the firefighters, police officers, and medical personnel on site broke out in a cold sweat. For a bustling area like this, and especially for an institution aimed at young children, a gas cylinder is a highly dangerous item that absolutely should not exist. If cooking is needed, only an induction cooker should be used. But now, a prohibited gas cylinder had appeared. If it caught fire, it would be a bomb. Even though this gas cylinder had been used for some time and not much liquefied gas remained, its potential danger could not be underestimated. Upon receiving the news, the police immediately evacuated the onlookers, pulling the original cordon back several meters to keep all spectators at bay. This was also to protect the safety of people's lives from any threats. Police officers, you must not let that young man get into trouble. Previously, he was the one who saved my precious grandson from the fire. We can't let anything happen to him. Don't worry, we will do everything we can to rescue him. The officer maintaining order at the scene responded solemnly. He then turned to look at the windows of the 4th floor surrounded by flames, silently praying in his heart. He was a soldier. He would be fine. At this moment, thick smoke was filling the hall on the 4th floor of the Early Education Center. The curtains near the source of the fire had already caught fire, burning and dripping an unknown sticky substance. Qin Feng, wearing a gas mask, crouched down, breathing heavily as he searched through the classrooms. Finally, he found the silhouette of the little boy in the bathroom. The boy's face was blackened, curled up in a corner. Trembling, he was clearly scared stiff. In the previous chaos, everyone had gathered in the hall, so no one noticed that one was still missing during the rescue. Qin Feng approached the boy, squatted down, and extended a hand. Come on, Uncle will take you out. Upon seeing Qin Feng, the boy burst into tears, clutching him tightly and repeatedly saying he was scared. Qin Feng patted his back and gently comforted him. Don't be afraid. The soldier uncle is here. He will protect you. Hearing the word soldier uncle, the boy quickly stopped crying. Qin Feng smiled silently. Previously, to stop children from crying, aside from the threat of the wolf grandmother coming to take them away, there was now an additional phrase. This precisely demonstrated the shining image that soldiers have in the hearts of the people. In the eyes of the public, soldiers always bring a sense of security, whether in natural disasters or any critical moments. As long as we see our soldiers, it signifies that while the situation is serious, it is manageable. Come on. Soldier uncle will take you home. Qin Feng gave the gas mask to the boy and casually found a wet towel to cover his mouth and nose. After picking up the boy with one arm, he prepared to quickly return the way he came. But as soon as he went downstairs, Qin Feng sensed that something was wrong. Although he couldn't open his eyes in the thick smoke, he could clearly feel a wave of heat hitting him. In an instant, Qin Feng realized what was happening. The clutter in the stairwell on the 2nd floor was on fire. Damn it! Qin Feng cursed the idiot who piled up the clutter and their ancestors. Right now, forcing his way out was definitely not an option. The heat from the 4th floor was enough to indicate how fierce the flames were. At this moment, he could only take the boy back the same way. After closing the glass door on the 4th floor, he stuffed a wet towel into the gap. At such a time, both the thick smoke and the diminishing oxygen were deadly. The route to the rooftop was blocked by security doors, making it impossible to go up. The elevator was even less of an option. So for now, Qin Feng could only stay on the 4th floor and wait for rescue. But in just a moment, the fire had already spread in from outside. Some bookshelves, small stools, and books in the hall were the first to catch flames. Meanwhile, the wet towel in Qin Feng's hand, which had still been able to wring out water half a minute ago, had now become extremely dry. Every breath taken was scorching hot, as if fire was burning in his heart. However, Qin Feng searched the entire Early Education Center and still couldn't find any escape route. The oxygen was becoming increasingly scarce, the temperature inside was rising, and the smoke seeping in through the cracks was growing thicker. If they didn't find a way to escape soon, it was very likely that they would die here. At this moment, Qin Feng was anxious and desperate. It was the first time he realized how insignificant humans are in the face of disaster. He shook the little boy in his arms and found that the boy was already somewhat delirious. Wake up, you can't sleep. Uncle Liberation Army. Are we going to die here? The little boy, wearing a gas mask, weakly asked, resting his head on Qin Feng's shoulder. Hearing this, Qin Feng's eyes turned red. But the prolonged high temperature made it impossible for him to shed a single tear. He forced a smile and comforted him. Don't worry. The firefighters and police outside are trying to rescue us. Let's chat for a bit, and soon we'll be able to get out. Your name is Xiaoxin, right? Tell me, how old are you this year? I'm 4 years old. Do you like eating green peppers? No, I don't like them. Looking at the increasingly weak boy in his arms, who could barely make a sound, Qin Feng could only bite his lip and silently cry, lifting his head. Why didn't I search more carefully earlier? Why didn't I talk a bit more with that little girl in the taxi? If I had just looked a moment longer, this situation wouldn't have happened. If I had chased out of the car to see her tie her shoelaces, maybe she would have escaped this disaster. As despair spread in his heart, Qin Feng was filled with self-blame and regret. But he understood that he was neither a deity nor an immortal, and could not determine life and death with a single thought. He was just a soldier of his nation. Looking at the barely breathing boy in his arms, Qin Feng's blood boiled in his chest. He slammed his fist on the ground and stood up suddenly. Breaking free from his sorrow, his gaze became more determined and resolute. Even if he had to die, he must ensure the child is safely brought out. Even if he had to die, he must uphold the responsibilities and beliefs of a soldier. Qin Feng rushed into the bathroom with the boy, drenching him completely with water. Then, he wrapped the boy in wet blankets, layer upon layer. Qin Feng prepared to hold the boy like this and charge out of the sea of flames. He was determined to exchange his life for a glimmer of hope for the boy. Li Jiaxing, Qi Ming, Chen Sanqi, I'm afraid I won't be coming back. Those snacks in the cabinet are yours now. Dad, Mom, I'm an unfilial son. I can't take care of you in your old age anymore. Squad leader, I'm afraid I can't offer you any strategies now. You'll have to rely on yourself from here on. The more Qin Feng spoke, the redder his eyes became, and the more his hands trembled. If one could live, who would want to die? But once you put on this military uniform, you must be prepared for dedication and sacrifice. At this moment, the last drop of moisture in Qin Feng's body turned into tears, dripping down from the tip of his nose. But as soon as it hit the ground, it quickly transformed into white smoke, dissipating into the air. The floor tiles had become scorching hot, and the hall outside was reflected as a sea of fire. At this instant, Qin Feng suddenly thought of that serious, yet slightly mischievous man who always liked to smoke with matches. Remembering Zhao Pengfei's face, Qin Feng managed a bitter smile. Squad leader, I'm sorry, I won't be able to be your soldier in this lifetime. The debt of the flowing red flag. I'll repay it in the next life. With that, Qin Feng wrapped himself in a damp blanket. However, the sheets and bedding here were pitifully small, barely covering half of his body. But for Qin Feng, who had already made up his mind to face death, it didn't make much of a difference. Such a massive fire, such high temperatures. Even if wearing protective gear, even if tightly wrapped, one could still be burned to a crisp. At this moment, Qin Feng held the boy wrapped like a silkworm cocoon tightly in his arms. Like a hero severing his own wrist, he strode towards the glass door. Hey, can you hear me? Can you see me? Just then, Qin Feng paused. Turning his head, he suddenly saw a familiar figure with excitement. About 3 meters away from the left window, Hong Ming stood on the fire truck ladder, shouting and waving his hands vigorously. Come over here. In a moment. I'll bring the ladder closer. You all come out this way. Hong Ming picked up the walkie-talkie and shouted to the people below. Press down the fire on my side. Concentrate all the water cannons here. Move the ladder a bit forward, so they can get out from here. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. All the glass on the 4th floor shattered, turning into crystal-clear fragments in the air. The distant onlookers covered their ears in terror and crouched down. At this moment, the surrounding sounds seemed to be forcibly stripped away, leaving only a buzzing electrical sound in everyone's ears. In the air, a figure wrapped in black smoke, with its back facing down, was rapidly falling towards the ground. In the final moments, Qin Feng, with bloodied hands, held the child tightly in his arms, with only one thought in his mind. In the next life, I still want to be a soldier. With a heavy thud, Qin Feng felt a sweetness in his throat, and the entire world fell into silence. Chapter 75, Squad Leader. Give me back my soldier. Classmates, what are your dreams for the future? I want to be a scientist. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be an engineer. Qin Feng, what about you? What is your dream for the future? Teacher, when I grow up, I want to join the army and serve my country. Join the army? Haha, big-headed soldier, big-headed soldier, big-headed soldier. What are you laughing at? No laughing aloud. Soldiers are great. What's so funny? In the classroom, Qin Feng, wearing a red scarf, had his tender little face flushed with anger. He was brought to tears by his classmates' mockery and ran out of the classroom, wiping his tears. But as soon as he stepped out of the classroom door, he found himself in the living room. At the back door, his grandmother was sitting on an old-fashioned handmade rattan chair, fanning herself with a palm fan. Qin Feng rushed into his grandmother's arms, sobbing with grievance. Grandma, my classmates laughed at me because I said I wanted to be a soldier when I grow up. They said I was useless. Don't cry, silly child. They can laugh all they want. Grandma supports you. Being a soldier is great. You can fight the little devils and shoot guns. His grandmother wiped his tears with a handkerchief and gently stroked his head, her face full of love and tenderness, with deep wrinkles marking her kind features. My dear grandson, you will look great in a military uniform, like a real man. Yes, when I grow up. I'll become a soldier, and I'll show you my uniform first. Haha, good, good, good. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Feng had already grown into a young man and appeared in the military recruitment examination office. I'm sorry, you have flat feet, so unfortunately, you can't enlist. A military officer regretfully handed Qin Feng the examination report. Staring at the glaring "not qualified" written on the paper, Qin Feng's face turned ashen. When he looked up again, he was back in his grandmother's living room. In front of him was an altar table with a black and white photo of an elderly person and 2 white candles. With a thud, Qin Feng knelt on the ground, tightly clutching the examination report, crying like a child. Grandma, I didn't pass the physical exam, and I can't become a soldier. I can't show you my military uniform. Tears fell to the ground, making a sound like raindrops. The ground began to ripple, spreading circles outward. In the next moment, Qin Feng felt weightless as he fell heavily forward. He didn't know how long this sensation of falling lasted before he finally landed on the floor tiles. At that moment, Qin Feng was wearing a green military uniform, with a big red flower pinned to his chest that read Honorable Enlistment. Welcome to the 402nd Regiment, Class 4 of the new recruits. I'm your squad leader, Zhao Pengfei. Over the next 3 months, we will learn and progress together. Now, we need to check in and hand over personal belongings. In the meantime, everyone can call home to report your safety. Qin Feng took out his phone from his pocket, still that Nokia 730. Ignoring the various messages on WeChat, he directly opened the contacts and, for some reason, pressed his mother's number. The phone rang for a long time, but no one answered. Looking at the red night sky outside, Qin Feng's mood began to grow anxious. Suddenly, the call was connected, and Qin Feng happily started to speak. However, the voice on the other end was not his mother, Zhou Mei, but a cacophony of noise and chaos. Help! Quick help! The captain shouted. His grip is too tight. I can't pry it open. Quickly lift him onto the stretcher. Be gentle, move lightly. Beep, beep, beep. Not good. The patient's heart rate is plummeting. Cardiac failure is severe. Administer the stimulant. Prepare the defibrillator. 3, 2, 1. In the next moment, Qin Feng felt as if an electric current surged through his body, causing him to tremble violently. He lost his balance and stepped forward, suddenly finding himself on the training ground. At that moment, the new recruits of Team 4 were training and marching and kicking under the supervision of Zhao Pengfei. Squad leader, why didn't you call me for training? Qin Feng ran towards the group, but no matter how close he was, he couldn't reach them. Panic set in as he desperately tried to run, but his legs felt as heavy as lead. Just then, Li Jiaxing, Qi Meng, and Chun Sanqi turned to look at him. Deputy squad leader, you don't belong here. You should hurry back. Back. Where should I go? Qin Feng, you need to wake up. Zhao Pengfei also turned to him. Remember what you said. You promised to help me get the mobile red flag back and to join me in the Steel Knife Company. Don't go back on your word. Squad leader. Squad leader. The figure in front of him began to fade away, and the training ground was empty. Qin Feng stood in the playground, looking around at the desolate barracks, and suddenly realized something. Wait, I should be at the fire scene, right? I was thrown out by the shockwave from the explosion. Is this a dream? Or a fleeting vision? Qin Feng's thoughts were in painful turmoil. His consciousness broke free from this dream world, gradually returning to his body. In the hospital's emergency room, Qin Feng's eyelids fluttered slightly, opening a narrow slit. The glaring white light made it impossible for him to open his eyes, but his brain was unusually clear. The heavens move vigorously. A gentleman should live on endlessly. The passive skill has successfully locked your health. Current health value. 1. The body is undergoing self-repair. Hearing the notification, Qin Feng finally realized. So I'm not dead. Everything that just happened was a dream. It seems he had underestimated his system. Severe injuries can lock health and allow for self-repair. As long as it wasn't a fatal shot, he could be saved. Qin Feng smiled with relief in his heart. So, my system is this powerful? Being a player is indeed fantastic. If it weren't for the system keeping him alive, he would probably be on the Naiha Bridge now, having the herbal soup spiced with cilantro by the old woman Meng. Current health value too low. Entering forced sleep can accelerate body repair. Do you choose to proceed? Without hesitation, Qin Feng chose yes. With injuries like this, what else can I do without sleep? The sooner I recover, the sooner I can return to the unit. The squad leader and the others must be worried sick. Soon, Qin Feng entered standby mode. In his mind, a loading progress bar appeared. In standby sleep. Health value 20. 21. 22, huh? What's going on? Something feels off. On this list, it clearly states that the injured person suffered a high fall due to an explosion, with multiple fractures and internal bleeding. But the situation doesn't seem that serious, does it? In this case of extensive burns, look at his arms and body. that can at most be classified as mild to moderate burns, right? Really? Could it be that the staff mixed up the cases? The hospital is overwhelmed with critical patients today, and they are short-staffed. The person in charge must have been too busy and confused the critical cases with the minor ones. Anyway, let us not dwell on that. We need to handle the wounds quickly. They emphasized when bringing him in that this young man saved many people. He is a great hero. At 8:30 p.m., Gu Jiong drove back to the new recruit company. Getting out of the car, he carried some documents and walked toward the company office with a beaming smile. Just then, he ran into Bai Yuan, who was coming out of the building with a face full of complaints. Oh, the big company commander is back after having fun, huh? Faced with the instructor's sarcastic tone, Gu Jiong chuckled. What are you talking about? I was out learning and gaining experience. Bai Yuan rolled his eyes in disbelief. What are you pretending for? Who knows if you were out chasing girls under the guise of learning? He spoke seriously. Old Gu, I'm not saying this to put you down. But as the company commander during training, you disappeared for half the day. What is that about? Even if you were out learning, you need to report to the higher-ups. If the commander finds out you left without notice, he won't let you off easily. Why would he? If he knew I brought back all these great materials from the training, he'd be praising me. Hearing this, Bai Yuan stared at the documents in his hand, looking incredulous. You really brought back training materials from there? Or else, do you think I vanished for half a day this afternoon? Gu Jiong held his head high, looking quite proud. Not just these learning materials. I also, Commander. At that moment, Zhao Pengfei jogged over. Gu Jiong turned to him. What is up? What is the matter? Zhao Pengfei glanced at the instructor and leaned closer to Gu Jiong, lowering his voice. Commander, I just wanted to ask if everything is going smoothly with that matter. Isn't it time to return Qin Feng to me? Wait a minute. Isn't he already back? No. Zhao Pengfei's eyes widened in surprise. Qin Feng hasn't he returned? Seeing Gu Jiong's astonished expression, Zhao Pengfei immediately sensed something was wrong. Didn't he leave with you? Didn't he come back with you? After the physical exam, he did go to the Special Forces unit with me, but I had to handle something, so I let him take an earlier ride back. But he hasn't come back at all. Watching the anxious expressions of the two, Bai Yuan felt a chill run down his spine. This is bad. Something big is happening. Chapter 76. Qin Feng is not a deserter. Damn it. In the restroom, the third squad leader received a punch and fell backward. Before he could get back up, Zhao Pengfei rushed over, grabbing him by the collar and lifting him off the ground. Say what you just said again. Say it again. Damn, I was just fucking joking. Zhao Pengfei, what the hell are you doing? Let go. Release Squad 3 leader. A group of veterans rushed over upon hearing the commotion and quickly separated the two. Platoon leader Yang Kaifeng glared at them angrily. What are you two trying to do? The company commander and political instructor just stepped out, and you're already at each other's throats, fighting in the bathroom? Do you even act like squad leaders? It was this bastard who started it. Squad 3 leader clutched his bleeding nose, fuming. Who told you to spew bullshit? Zhao Pengfei was still seething with rage. So much so that 2 or 3 veterans could barely restrain him. Yang Kaifeng was no fool. Although Zhao Pengfei usually liked to show off a bit, he was generally even-tempered. For him to lose control like this, Squad 3 leader must have said something extremely offensive. What exactly did you say? Yang Kaifeng asked coldly, staring at Squad 3 leader. Squad 3 leader visibly flinched. I just said that Qin Feng might not want to return to the unit. Is that all? That's all. Bullshit. Zhao Pengfei exploded. You clearly said he might desert, and that it's a good thing it's not wartime, or he could be executed if caught. Did you really say that? Not only Yang Kaifeng, but the other veteran squad leaders nearby also turned cold-eyed. Many of them had interacted with Qin Feng and knew he was capable, a natural soldier. Saying something like that was like rubbing salt in Zhao Pengfei's wounds. No wonder he got punched. Serves him right. Old Shun, it's only because Zhao Pengfei has a good temper. If it were me, I'd knock your teeth out. Zhou Shangfei cursed sharply before turning and leaving the bathroom, washing his hands of the matter. The other squad leaders similarly despised Squad 3 leader's behavior, and none stepped in to defend him. As the veterans who had intervened gradually dispersed, Squad 3 leader felt utterly aggrieved. I was just joking. Don't you understand what a joke is? But before he could explain further, Yang Kaifeng dragged him outside. In the corridor, Squad 3 leader wore a pitiful expression and began complaining incessantly. Platoon leader, it was just a small joke. I didn't mean it like that. Besides, Qin Feng hasn't returned to the unit on time. That is a fact. Did I say anything wrong? If this were the Qin dynasty, he'd be executed for sure. Even during wartime, wouldn't this count as disobeying orders? And why would that guy give Zhao Pengfei a lighter for no reason? Clearly, he was preparing to leave. It was a farewell gift. Shut your mouth. Otherwise, I'll slap you myself. With the company commander and political instructor out searching for someone, Yang Kaifeng was the highest authority in the new recruit company. His words carried weight. Yang Kaifeng pointed at him sternly. No matter what, gossiping behind someone's back is wrong. The company commander and political instructor Haven T made any conclusions yet. Who do you think you are? How do you know he didn't run into an emergency or an accident on the way? Zhao Pengfei really deserved that beating. He definitely needed to be put in his place. The squad leader was somewhat speechless. He was just joking around and didn't expect Zhao Pengfei to explode like that. Should I go apologize to him now? Get lost. Yang Kaifeng kicked him in the rear. Think before you speak or act. After all these years in the military, do you not know what can and cannot be said? When the platoon leader and the instructor come back, I'll report this whole incident. Just wait for your punishment. After educating the squad leader, Yang Kaifeng went back to the restroom. In the corner, a few sparks flickered, and wisps of white smoke rose. Yang Kaifeng walked over and pulled out a cigarette. Got a light? Zhao Pengfei glanced at him and casually used his lighter to light it. As Yang Kaifeng inhaled and exhaled the smoke, he looked at the lighter in Zhao Pengfei's hand. You know how the squad leader is. He just has a big mouth and doesn't think before he speaks. He doesn't really mean any harm. Zhao Pengfei remained silent, lost in his own thoughts as he smoked. Yang Kaifeng sighed. I know what you're worried about. Qin Feng must have run into some trouble, which is why he hasn't come back yet. Maybe by tomorrow morning, he'll finish his business and return on his own. I hope so. Zhao Pengfei sighed heavily. Just then, a sudden commotion erupted outside. Zhao Pengfei and Yang Kaifeng rushed to the water room and found it already in chaos, with basins flying everywhere. Squad leader, sorry. We caused you trouble. Li Jiaxing, who had a swollen face, apologized from the group. Zhao Pengfei smiled and didn't mind at all. It's fine. As long as I'm not embarrassed. Just moments ago, the new recruits from the 4th squad were washing up in the water room when the 3rd squad suddenly surrounded them aggressively, demanding an explanation for their squad leader. Then, a fight broke out. However, the 3rd squad underestimated the fighting capability of the 4th squad. Just Qi Ming alone could take on 3 or 4 of them. Later, the section leader, furious, ordered Zhao Pengfei and the others to return to their dorms for reflection. As the instigators, the 3rd squad faced severe punishment, being made to walk 20 laps in a duck walk and do 500 push-ups on the playground. Squad leader, where did the squad vice go? Yeah. Why hasn't he come back yet? Others in the squad were spreading rumors that he might have run away halfway. Zhao Pengfei suddenly turned around and looked at them seriously. Do you believe that? Everyone shook their heads vigorously, clearly not believing that Qin Feng would really desert. With his outstanding performance and top-notch skills, how could someone like him be a deserter? In the entire new recruit company, anyone could potentially run away. But definitely not Qin Feng. Zhao Pengfei's gaze was intense. I don't believe it either. I firmly believe that Qin Feng must have encountered something on his way back, which is why he has delayed. The platoon leader and instructor have already gone out to look for him, and we'll have news soon. So, have you found anything? Not yet. Have you checked the bus station, the hotel, and the foot massage places? Foot massage? On the other end of the phone, Bai Yuan was somewhat surprised. That kid shouldn't be going to places like this, right? Just find him when I ask you to. Stop rambling. Gu Xiong shouted into the phone. Don't miss any place that allows overnight stays. By the way, internet cafes, don't forget about those. Got it. After hanging up, Gu Xiong slammed both hands on the steering wheel in frustration. He was filled with regret. He shouldn't have let Qin Feng return alone during the training period. If a new recruit goes missing, the company commander like him would definitely bear the main responsibility. If they could find him in time, it would be fine. But if they couldn't, then the situation would be serious. Not only would the regiment commander skin him alive, but this incident would also forever become a stain on Gu Xiong's military career. After all, it was he who took Qin Feng out, and it was also he who approved Qin Feng's return alone. It would be hard for him to avoid this blame. Qin Feng, where the hell have you gone? He wouldn't really want to avoid military service and run away, would he? Gu Xiong shook his head vigorously, dismissing this ridiculous thought. He truly couldn't understand why someone as outstanding and promising as Qin Feng would have any reason to run away. Gu Xiong restarted the car and slowly drove down the street on the left. He continued to search aimlessly for Qin Feng's figure on the streets at 3 in the morning. However, he was unaware that just a few hundred meters to the south, there were police cordons. That was where the explosion had occurred in the old city streets. Manager, can I ask you something? Bai Yuan rushed into an internet cafe and asked a female staff member who was rubbing her eyes at the counter. What is it? I want to know if you've seen a soldier? Yes. Hearing this, Bai Yuan was overjoyed. Where is he? Where is he? The female staff member pointed at him. Isn't that you? Bai Yuan's face immediately fell, and he forced a smile. I mean, someone young, handsome, tall, like a celebrity? The female staff member shook her head. No, I haven't seen anyone like that. Bai Yuan sighed in disappointment. Sorry for bothering you. Then he scanned the hall and left helplessly. As the internet cafe door closed, the female staff member turned her gaze back to her phone screen. The next second, she covered her mouth, held her breath, and tears streamed down her face. On the phone screen, a figure shrouded in black smoke was blown out of the window by the explosion. Falling from the 4th floor, It landed heavily on the roof of a private car. Even at that moment, he was still tightly holding a child wrapped in a blanket. Chapter 77. He is a hero. You two are fools. Tap, tap, tap. At 5 in the morning, in a rented room filled with crumpled paper and a faint musty smell, Lu Chong, a worker, was squatting on an esports chair wearing loose, baggy shorts. With a cigarette dangling from his mouth, he stretched his neck and squinted at the computer screen. How can someone so ugly and with such poor acting skills still be in the business? They must have slept with the director or producer. I have a friend who works on film sets, and he says that this female celebrity has an extremely reckless private life and is keeping over 20 young men. Lu Chong, with a cigarette in his mouth, whimsically typed away on the keyboard. Soon, his message notifications exploded. Most of them were the female celebrity's fans cursing him, while the rest were a bunch of onlookers asking him for the so-called truth. Lu Chong flicked the ash from his cigarette, took a sip of Red Bull from the table, and felt exhilarated. He then continued searching for new prey on social media. Before long, he found a popular influencer sharing daily life posts. The photos of exquisite food, luxury cars, and designer watches dazzled him. This lavish lifestyle made him, a miserable worker earning only $2,500 a month, feel a mix of envy and frustration. Are you kidding me? Eating lousy steak and stale bread. And you still dare to post it online? Aren't you embarrassed? That coffee isn't even good. It's just soy milk. Why should I care? What does it have to do with me? Wait, can I not say a few words? You're just driving a Mercedes E-Class worth over $500,000. What is so impressive about that? Have you seen real luxury cars? Do you know what a Maybach is? What about a Lamborghini? Seriously, do you even have a Maybach at home? This must be stolen pictures. If you're capable, show yourself in the driver's seat doing a peace sign. Lu Chong watched as the other party sent a photo of themselves in a Maybach, making a peace sign. His face flushed with anger, feeling even more infuriated. Shortly after, he received another photo of the person in a Lamborghini, giving the middle finger. Furious, Lu Chong almost smashed his keyboard. How the hell did this scumbag make that kind of money? Definitely a rich second generation, definitely someone who has money. Their family must be involved in something shady. Or they're scamming people. Heh, all you have is some petty cash. Can you match the depth of my life? Have you read any great works? Do you know what the 4 great classical novels are? Lu Chong typed furiously, his anger reaching a boiling point. But just as he finished a lengthy tirade of insults, he realized the other person had blocked him, and his messages wouldn't go through. Damn it. Lu Chong punched the table in frustration, feeling powerless. As a professional troll, he lived by the motto of striking hard online while being meek in reality. So in his spare time, trolling and spreading rumors online was his greatest hobby. But now he was being confronted by a wealthy fool, which left him quite upset. He needed to find a new target to unleash his pin-up anger. Just then, he stumbled upon a trending topic on the list titled Using Love to Protect the Most Lovable Person. The most lovable person? Using love? How ridiculous. Lu Chong rubbed his hands together, eagerly clicking on the topic. He wanted to use his keyboard to vent his frustrations about reality. But as he continued to look, his expression gradually became serious. He let his legs down from the stool and placed his hand over his mouth, staring at the heartbreaking photos and the gripping rescue videos. He swallowed hard. As his anger dissipated, a deep sorrow began to spread in his heart. He found himself unable to express it, truly unable. As he scrolled down with the mouse wheel, he came across 2 more images. The first was of a young soldier squatting down to tie the shoelaces of a little girl whose face was blurred. The second showed the soldier taking off his uniform and draping it over the girl. Although the image had been edited, it was still clear that a large area of deep red was printed in the center of the uniform. Tears streamed down his face as he choked back a sob and wiped his face with his sleeve. He opened the comment section and typed out a message word by word. Salute to the most lovable people. Long live the soldiers. At 7 in the morning, the reading room of the inspection team was lit up. A group of young inspectors gathered around a newspaper, engaged in a heated discussion. What are you all talking about? It sounds lively. An old veteran from the second phase approached with curiosity. Captain, haven't you seen today's morning paper headline? Someone immediately responded. Not yet. What's going on? Has something major happened? Something big. A huge incident. One of the officers who had been on duty with him yesterday said, clearly shaken. Captain, didn't we go out for duty yesterday? Luckily, we didn't take the Old Town route when we returned. There was a gas explosion there, and half the street was blown away. After listening to the account, the veteran felt a chill run down his spine, and cold sweat formed in his palms. Just yesterday, he had planned to go back and buy something in the Old Town. Later, he encountered a wandering rookie at the station, and after checking him, he suddenly forgot about it. So he didn't go to the Old Town. The veteran also felt a lingering fear. Good thing we didn't go, otherwise, we'd either be in the morgue or severely injured in the hospital. However, that firefighter is truly brave. He saved so many people. I wonder if they managed to rescue anyone. Firefighter. Someone nearby immediately grabbed the newspaper. The one who rescued the most people wasn't a firefighter. He was a soldier. Just like us. Look here. The veteran immediately took the newspaper and read it carefully. He learned that before the fire brigade arrived, it had been a soldier maintaining order at the scene. It was he who, disregarding danger, rushed into the flames and opened a lifeline for the children. Unfortunately, before rescuing anyone, this soldier had torn off his shoulder insignia, so they could only determine he was from the army by his camouflage uniform. As for his unit, military branch, and rank, they were completely unknown. The group had been enthusiastically discussing which unit this soldier belonged to, whether he was a non-commissioned officer or an officer, a civilian official or someone in charge of military affairs. Looking at the blurred images in the newspaper, Guo Mingliang couldn't help but feel a deep respect. This is the true spirit of selfless good deeds, embodying the genuine essence of LF. No matter which organization he belongs to, he is a hero, a true hero. What? The young man who saved lives is not a firefighter, but a soldier. And from our military? I haven't seen the newspaper yet. I only caught a glimpse on my phone before bed last night. At that time, the report said he was a firefighter, so I assumed that was the case. Leader, give me a day. Oh no, half a day, and I will definitely find out which unit he belongs to. Rest assured, there are detailed records of the officers and non-commissioned officers on duty, and I can quickly find the unit of that firefighting hero. I'll report back to you with specifics then. In the military command office, Commander Wei Shana hung up the phone and immediately called for his secretary. Chief, what are your instructions? Did you see the news about the fire rescue yesterday? Are you referring to the gas explosion in the old district that sparked a large fire? Yes. Wei Shana stood up, put on his military cap, and said solemnly, the only military presence in the area is ours. So that firefighting hero is very likely one of our own. I need you to find out his unit and all relevant information in the shortest time possible. Understood. The secretary nodded vigorously. Also, firefighters, police, medical personnel, local media, and people from all walks of life are concerned about his safety. Get a vehicle ready immediately. I want to visit the hospital and see our great hero. When I return, I will personally report to higher-ups to commend him. Yes, at 10 a.m. In the regiment's office, Commander Chiu Guohai slammed his hand on the table, angrily pointing at Gu Zhiong and Bai Yuan, who stood like two poles in front of him. You two, you are like bears, two big bears. Do you know the impact and danger of a new recruit going AWOL? If we can't find him, I'll be in trouble with you. Right now, I wish I could kick each of you and send you both flying out of the window. Chapter 78. A new recruit? How could he possibly be a new recruit? Report. Commander, we know we were wrong. Chiu Guohai scolded for a good 10 minutes before finally stopping. At that moment, Gu Zhiong could only lower his head and admit his mistake. Commander, everyone is responsible for their own actions. Suddenly, Bai Yuan stepped forward, standing up for himself. Seeing his instructor stand up for him, Gu Zhiong felt touched. Good brother, very loyal. But this matter doesn't require your burden. Before Gu Zhiong could finish his sentence, Bai Yuan's finger pointed out, and he stepped aside, firmly distancing himself. Commander, this matter has nothing to do with me. If there is punishment, it should fall solely on Gu Zhiong. This is entirely due to his negligence. What the heck? Gu Zhiong was shocked, his eyes nearly popping out. I trusted you, and you threw me under the bus. He hurriedly defended himself. Commander, I admit there was negligence on my part. I shouldn't have let my guard down and become complacent just because I had the training materials of the Special Operations Team, allowing a new recruit to return alone. Gu Zhiong specifically emphasized the words training materials of the Special Operations Team, hoping to slightly mitigate his mistake. However, Chiu Guohai was not convinced at all and slammed the table angrily. Is this an excuse? It's just a pretext. When can't we take the materials? Who can't take them? Besides, why did you take the materials and bring a new recruit along? During the training period, no one is allowed to go out without permission. You are openly violating military discipline now. It's only right for me to give you a punishment. Commander, I know I was wrong. Gu Zhiong had no way to argue and could only admit his mistake obediently. Just as Bai Yuan was secretly relieved that he wouldn't be punished along with him, Chiu Guohai's sharp gaze suddenly swept over. And you? Huh? Bai Yuan was taken aback. How are you managing as an instructor? Chiu Guohai spat out angrily at him. I assigned you to supervise the new recruits. And this is how you supervise? Why didn't you report such a significant matter yesterday, and only tell me now? I. Bai Yuan was at a loss for words. He wanted to say he thought he could find the person. This is just a lucky mindset. Chiu Guohai saw right through his thoughts. You think that since you weren't involved in the whole affair, it has nothing to do with you, right? Let me tell you, the new recruit escaping is due to your failure to do your job as an instructor and not educating them properly. Plus, by covering for Gu Zhiong and not reporting it in time, you've added to your own guilt. If this matter develops in the worst direction, not only will I punish you, but you can forget about working at the regiment headquarters in the future and will be sent to the most remote outpost to stand guard. Hearing this, Bai Yuan felt like he wanted to die. What an unexpected disaster. Truly an unexpected disaster. He suddenly wanted to sing a song. I really want to escape. But I can't. Damn it. Gu Zhiyong cursed inwardly. You backstabber, getting your comeuppance, huh? You two listen well. Qiu Guohai pointed at them, and they immediately straightened their bodies again. I'm giving you 24 hours. During this time, no matter what method you use, you must bring the person back to me. If you exceed this time, I will only contact the local armed forces and his parents, treating him as a deserter. Commander, Qin Feng absolutely cannot be a deserter. Gu Zhiyong suddenly panicked, but was interrupted by Qiu Guohai raising his hand. Enough, don't say any more. If the person can return within 24 hours and everything is fine, it's all good. If he can't come back, I'll be held accountable along with you. Now, get out and disappear from my sight. Yes, Bai Yuan replied, looking at Gu Zhiyong, who was reluctant to leave. He quickly pulled Gu Zhiyong outside. Gu Zhiyong, why are you being stubborn in front of the commander? Who doesn't he know that Qin Feng is an outstanding recruit in the entire new recruit company? But he has indeed disappeared now and has not returned to the unit. If we can't find him, we can only treat it as desertion. I suggest we call his family. They might know Qin Feng's whereabouts. No way. Gu Zhiyong directly rejected the suggestion. I'm saying if Qin Feng really encountered something tricky and was delayed, calling back would only make his family worry and create unnecessary trouble, right? Their parents happily sent their child off to join the army, and now we've lost him. How do we explain that? So what do you propose? Bai Yuan shrugged. Feeling helpless, Gu Zhiyong sighed. Let's search one more time. The commander has given us 24 hours. If we really can't find him by then, we can call his parents. This kind of thing can't be hidden forever. Bai Yuan thought for a moment and felt that this was indeed the most prudent approach. All right, then let's change our route and look again today. Hopefully, we can find some surprise. Meanwhile, in the commander's office, the landline suddenly rang. Qiu Guohai, who was in a bad mood, picked up the phone and answered irritably. The division commander on the other end was taken aback, almost thinking he had reached the headquarters. Qiu Guohai, you old rascal, are you on explosives? How dare you speak to me like that so early in the morning? Hearing the commander's voice, Qiu Guohai was startled and quickly smiled apologetically. I'm sorry, Commander, I just got scalded by hot water, so my voice was a bit loud. The division commander snorted, but didn't he pursue the topic further and directly asked, did any veterans or officers from the 402nd Regiment go out yesterday? No. Our regiment is currently undergoing discipline rectification, strictly prohibiting all outings and leaves. What about the recruits? Wasn't there a group physical examination arranged yesterday? Yes. But after it ended, after what? Facing the division commander's questioning, Qiu Guohai hesitated for a moment. After it ended, they should have all returned. I'll check the specifics and give you an accurate answer shortly. Good. The division commander nodded. By the way, did you hand that document over to Gu Zhiyong? Qiu Guohai shook his head. Commander, our regiment discussed it and decided to wait until after the recruit session to inform him. I'm afraid he won't be able to handle such a surprise, which could affect the upcoming training. The division commander nodded, agreeing with his reasoning. All right. Let us leave it at that. Goodbye. With that, he hung up. Qiu Guohai slowly put down the receiver, sighing helplessly. Although he didn't know why the division commander suddenly called to ask about personnel going out, he still chose to keep things a bit under wraps for Gu Zhiyong. After all, he didn't want this incident to tarnish Gu Zhiyong's reputation and affect his future. Director Wang, no matter what, you must ensure this soldier gets better. Regardless of the cost or the price of the medicine, all expenses will be covered by the unit. In the hospital corridor, Wei Shanha, just having visited Qin Feng, was earnestly shaking the director's hand. The hospital director nodded and said, General Wei, don't worry. The injured person's vital signs are stable and there are no major issues. We estimate he should wake up from the coma in about half a month. But to be honest, your soldier is really lucky. He fell from such a high floor and didn't break a single bone. His internal organs only sustained minor injuries. Wei Shanha smiled and nodded. Perhaps this is what they call good people being rewarded. Us soldiers have tough lives. Even the king of hell wouldn't dare to take us. The director had other matters to attend to, so he left. Looking at Qin Feng, who was lying in bed with an oxygen mask on, Wei Changjun took a deep breath. He had already watched all the rescue videos from the scene. With such a large fire, an explosion, and a fall from the 4th floor, for an ordinary person, even if saved, they would probably spend the rest of their lives hooked up to machines in bed. But he never expected that Qin Feng mostly only had superficial injuries. Even the burn areas were only mild to moderate and healing very well. For this, Wei Shanha could only attribute it to sheer luck. Some people go to the battlefield and get hit as soon as they show their heads. Others, the bullets just seem to avoid them. He had seen the latter type on the battlefield with his own eyes. So, naturally, he categorized Qin Feng into that group. At that moment, Wei Shanha's phone rang. Hello, how's the investigation going? Sir, we couldn't find any information about him, the secretary said somewhat awkwardly. Do you think this soldier might not belong to our military? Perhaps he is from another unit, on leave, or out on official business. Wei Shanha fell silent for a moment and turned to look at Qin Feng's youthful face in the ward. It was strange that, despite seeing him in person, they couldn't find any information about him. Suddenly, he had an epiphany. Are the people you checked who are out all veterans, non-commissioned officers, or officers? Yes, why? Is there a problem, sir? Wrong, wrong, the direction is wrong. Wei Shan has seemed to have figured something out, and said excitedly, I've met this young man. He can't be more than 20. At his age, he can't possibly be a non-commissioned officer, let alone an officer. The secretary was taken aback. Are you saying he's a recruit? But how could a recruit have such strong operational capability? How could he have such high ideological awareness? Enough. Investigate along this line, and give me 1 hour. Yes. After hanging up, the secretary was in a state of shock. But as he pondered the general's words, the more he thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. No wonder he didn't have insignia. It wasn't that he had torn them off or was trying to hide his identity, but rather he hadn't been awarded any rank yet. Damn it. Are the new recruits this formidable now? In the evening, Gu Xiong drove back to the camp. As soon as he opened the door, Zhao Pengfei rushed over from the training ground in a hurry. Company commander, how is it? Any news? Have you found him? Gu Xiong slammed the car door shut, glanced at him, and sighed helplessly. Zhao Pengfei's heart sank to the bottom. Haven't found him yet? Gu Xiong patted him on the back and comforted. The instructor is still out there searching. He'll call me as soon as there's news. Just as he finished speaking, his phone suddenly rang. News is coming. Gu Xiong excitedly took out his phone, but the caller ID showed it was the regiment commander. His expression immediately turned grim. The regiment commander calling at this time must be inquiring about the progress. Before Zhao Pengfei could say anything, he was interrupted by Gu Xiong raising his hand. Taking a deep breath, Gu Xiong forced a smile and answered the call. Hello, Commander, I have some leads here. Yes, someone saw that kid at an internet cafe. I'm following the clues. Don't worry, I'll find him soon. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm right behind you, turn around. Hearing this, Gu Xiong was stunned and turned around in a daze. He then noticed a military vehicle parked not far from the cafeteria. In the driver's seat, Commander Chiu Guohai was holding a phone, glaring at him fiercely. Next to him, Chief of Staff Sun Quan was smiling and waving at him. Damn, caught in a lie. Gu Xiong reluctantly hung up, glaring at Zhao Pengfei in frustration. You saw him and didn't he tell me? I blinked at you, but you didn't notice. Gu Xiong didn't have time to argue with Zhao Pengfei and hurried over to apologize. But as soon as he reached the vehicle, the commander surprised him with good news. I have good news for you, we found him. Found him? Yes. Get in the car, we need to go. As soon as the commander finished speaking, the chief of staff added, bring Zhao Pengfei along too. He asked that kid's squad leader and must be worried sick. Yes. Gu Xiong happily turned back and shouted to Zhao Pengfei, Zhao Pengfei, get in the car. Qin Feng has been found. Coming. Zhao Pengfei excitedly ran towards the military vehicle, a big smile on his face. Qin Feng, you little brat finally decided to show up. When I see you, I'm going to teach you a lesson. Chapter 79 Commander. I don't think you should think. The office building of the Thunder Leopard Special Operations Brigade's Operations Information Department was shrouded in darkness. Only one office on the west side had a faint light. In front of the computer sat Zhu Huihui, her expression serious, her eyes fixed on the screen. Qin Feng, male, 18 years old, from Jiangsu and Zhujiang, a new recruit in the 4th Squad of the 402 Border Defense Regiment. On the screen, in addition to Qin Feng's profile, there was a news summary about a gas explosion in the old city that had caused a fire. As a technician in the Operations Information Department, Zhu Huihui's daily job involved collecting and organizing information related to troop safety. Just 15 minutes ago, she had suddenly come across a newly added file in the military's internal network. But upon opening it, she was completely stunned. Isn't this the kid who came with Gu Xiong that day? Zhu Huihui had a strong impression of this handsome recruit, so she recognized him at a glance. I really shouldn't judge a person by their appearance. Zhu Huihui sighed with a hint of self-reproach, then picked up her phone that was turned face down on the table. She opened WeChat and clicked on the chat box with the nickname Always Smiling. The last message from Gu Xiong was sent 3 to 4 days ago. Since leaving last time, he hadn't sent a call or a text. This sudden lack of communication made Zhu Huihui feel a bit down. Due to the demands of her work, she had no plans for a romantic relationship lately. Although she knew Gu Xiong had feelings for her, she remained indifferent. Out of respect for an old classmate, she occasionally replied politely. However, thinking back to the way Gu Xiong had called her Officer Zhu that day, Zhu Huihui felt quite uncomfortable. After all, they had been classmates for many years. Wasn't he a bit too distant to address her like that? With this in mind, Zhu Huihui hesitated for a moment before starting to edit the conversation. What are you doing? But as soon as she typed those 3 words, she deleted them all. No. If I take the initiative to message him, will he think too much? That would look too much like being overly eager. Maybe I shouldn't send anything after all. Oh, still busy so late. At that moment, a voice suddenly came from behind her. Zhu Huihui turned to see the visitor and immediately stood up to salute. Good evening. Team Leader Yuan. The newcomer, with 2 bars and 3 stars on his uniform, was Colonel Yuan Feng, the captain of the 2nd Squad of the Thunder Leopard Special Operations Brigade. Zhu Huihui continued, I still have some materials that aren't organized yet. Sir, what brings you here? Yuan Feng waved a stack of documents in his hand. The printer in my office is broken, so I had to come here to use yours. Hope you don't mind. Zhu Huihui found it amusing and quickly shook her head. You're the team leader. We wouldn't dare object even if you wanted to take the printer. At that moment, Yuan Feng curiously walked over, his eyes fixed on the computer screen. He gestured for Zhu Huihui to step aside, then plopped down in the chair, looking at the screen. Before the fire department and police arrived, organizing on-site rescue, bravely entering the fire, successfully rescuing 46 trapped teachers and students, using his back as a cushion during the fall to save the last trapped child. Wow, a rookie? 18 years old, from Jiangsu and Zhejiang, we are fellow townsfolk. Yuan Feng rhythmically tapped his fingers on the table, chuckling, tisk tisk tsk, indeed. The Jiangsu and Zhejiang region is blessed with talent. Zhu Huihui's eyelids twitched. She wasn't even sure if the team leader was praising her or Qin Feng. I have a task for you. Yuan Feng suddenly turned around and said, what is it? Print a copy of this kid's information and leave it on my desk by tomorrow morning. No problem. No problem. Yuan Feng tossed her a sour plum candy as a reward, then took the documents and turned to head to the elevator. Looking at the candy in her hand, Zhu Huihui appeared deep in thought. At that moment, she suddenly recalled what Gu Zhiyong had said that day. He had already experienced the tempering of flames. How far off could the trials of blood be? At the same time, it was 11 o'clock at night. Gu Zhiyong and the others, who had just visited Qin Feng in the hospital, felt an overwhelming heaviness in their hearts. Although Qin Feng was not in any life-threatening condition and his recovery was progressing normally, there were still no signs of him waking up. Experts explained that he might have sustained a brain injury, so it could take at least 10 days to 2 weeks before he regained consciousness. Seeing someone who had been so lively just a few days ago now lying on a hospital bed, wrapped in bandages and wearing an oxygen mask, left everyone feeling uneasy. Moreover, Qin Feng had been injured while trying to save others. Suddenly, Zhao Pengfei raised his hand and slapped himself twice. This startled everyone, including the team leader. What are you doing? The team leader asked. Zhao Pengfei, with red eyes and a pained expression, said, before coming here, I thought if I saw that brat, I would definitely break his legs. But I never expected. The team leader and the chief of staff exchanged glances, but remained silent. Before arriving, they were also unclear about the specific situation and only understood the entire matter after they got there. All right, Gu Zhiyong said, patting him on the shoulder, don't blame yourself. After all, none of us knew what had happened. Zhao Pengfei shook his head, excitedly saying, as Qin Feng's squad leader, I should trust my soldiers unconditionally. I shouldn't have doubted him. Let me correct you, he is also my soldier. Gu Zhiyong coughed. You're one of my soldiers too. Zhao Pengfei exclaimed, as if he had been interrupted mid-spell. No, team leader, are you even going to take this from me? Qiu Guohai shot Gu Zhiyong a glare, saying, what yours and mine? He is a great contributor. I want to see who dares to say our border defense regiment can't do it, or that we can't raise good soldiers. Not long after, everyone returned to the new recruit company. After dropping off Gu Zhiyong and Zhao Pengfei, Qiu Guohai restarted the vehicle and headed back to the regiment. In the passenger seat, the chief of staff, Sun Quan, who had been silent the entire way, suddenly spoke up. Team leader, I want to. No thinking aloud. Qiu Guohai interrupted. No. Team leader, do you know what I want to say? I don't want to know or hear anything, as long as it's related to Qin Feng. You'd better not think about it. Hearing this, Sun Quan nearly rolled his eyes to the sky. Who is the chief of staff here? Who is the schemer? I suddenly realize you're more cunning than I am. I know you want to, but I suggest you don't. Sun Quan was left speechless by Qiu Guohai's offhand remarks. How did you figure it out, team leader? I haven't said a word this whole trip. Just the thought of it, and you know I want to ask for someone? Qiu Guohai glanced at him and sneered, old son. Although I've never been a chief of staff, it doesn't mean I haven't studied military strategy. Recently, you suddenly dismissed Xiao Su. That position is vacant. Who do you want to fill it? And you insisted on coming with me to visit Qin Feng in the hospital. Isn't that a bit too obvious? Sun Quan smiled and gave a thumbs up, saying, impressive, impressive. It looks like my position as chief of staff is about to become obsolete. Your strategy is remarkable. One person is worth two. Don't be ridiculous. Qiu Guohai was not buying into his flattery at all. Those who play tactics never speak the truth. Let me be clear. Qin Feng cannot follow you as a staff officer, nor can he take your path. This kid is definitely going to pursue a military career, and I need to cultivate him personally. As for where to place him later, I haven't figured that out yet. How long has it been? It's been quite a while since our regiment has made such a big splash. It's really not easy. Qiu Guohai's words were tinged with a sense of bitterness. Even Sun Quan felt a bit helpless. With so many regiments in the division, the 402 Border Defense Regiment always found itself at the bottom. Every time they attended meetings at the division, they couldn't hold their heads up. Finally, they could take pride in themselves this time. But what about Gu Zhiyong? How do you plan to handle him? You saw his attitude today. I'm afraid he won't be so easy to persuade later. Qiu Guohai's expression changed, and he became somewhat troubled. The two issues had collided, creating a mess. He sighed, if it comes to that. I'll find a suitable opportunity to talk to him properly later. This is a hard-earned second-class merit. We absolutely cannot let it go. Second-class merit? Sun Quan rolled his eyes. With such a huge social impact and so many young lives at stake, it only warrants a second-class merit? In my opinion, this kid Qin Feng deserves a first-class merit. Qiu Guohai pondered for a moment, then broke into a big grin, laughing like a shoe that had burst its seams. Isn't that even better? A first-class merit. Ha ha. Our regiment has produced a first-class meritorious service, and it's a rookie. I can't wait for the next division meeting to see which of those guys dares to speak loudly to me. Huh? For any unit in the military, first-class merit is an extraordinary achievement. It is not only an honor but also a shining accomplishment, a highlight in every leader's military career. It's akin to a vocational school suddenly discovering a genius in higher mathematics, bringing fame to the entire school and the city. Even the principal would hold his head high during meetings with the education department. What is this called? This is what you call a small sect producing an extraordinary talent that comes once in a century. As the chief of staff of the 402 Regiment, Sun Quan felt equally proud. He coughed lightly and casually said, I heard that the division commander recently got some special top-grade Dahong Pao tea. I wonder what it tastes like. Qiu Guohai immediately burst into laughter. Ha ha, I'll be attending a meeting in a couple of days. I'll bring some back for you to try. Oh dear, that is too much trouble. Just a small matter, just a small matter. Come on. It's a bit rushed tonight, and we don't have many ingredients, so let us just eat something simple. In the company commander's dormitory, a small square table was set up. On the table was an induction cooker, bubbling away. Next to them were various hot pot meatballs, napa cabbage, beef, and lamb rolls, along with a plate of quail eggs. These were all brought back by Gu Zhiyong, who knocked on the kitchen door late at night. At this moment, Gu Zhiyong, Bai Yuan, and Zhao Pengfei were all sitting on stools, happily cooking hot pot. I really didn't expect this at all, Bai Yuan said, putting down his chopsticks with a look of amazement. How did Qin Feng suddenly become a great hero? It feels like a dream to me. Just yesterday, I was still searching for people with Lao Gu all over the streets, checking internet cafes, train stations, even foot massage places. Gu Zhiyong and Zhao Pengfei exchanged glances and burst into laughter. Don't say it's just you. We still feel like we're dreaming. Come on. Let us eat meat. Don't let the chopsticks rest. Let us celebrate Qin Feng in advance. Saying this, Gu Zhiyong used a slotted spoon to scoop up 2 beef balls and put them into Zhao Pengfei's bowl. Zhao Pengfei, Qin Feng is your soldier, no matter what. You've made a great contribution this time. Come on. As the squad leader, I'll toast you with this. Let us finish this bottle. All right. Zhao Pengfei was also a straightforward person. The two of them each grabbed a beer bottle and tilted their heads back to drink. Watching them compete in drinking, Bai Yuan couldn't help but smile. He never expected that someone who was almost labeled a deserter could suddenly become a hero. He had seen the rescue videos and photos from the scene. To be honest, he felt proud deep down to have trained a soldier like Qin Feng. This is a good soldier, the purest and most passionate soldier of our country. Come on, include me too. Bai Yuan cheerfully raised his beer bottle and joined them in drinking. With a bang, Zhao Pengfei was the first to put down his bottle. I'm first. Ha ha ha. Damn, I was a step slower. Gu Zhiyong quickly followed suit, putting down his empty bottle. Third. Just as Bai Yuan was about to put down his bottle, he was stopped by the two. What the hell? Are you just letting it sit here, leaving so much? Hurry up and finish it, otherwise, you'll be punished with another bottle. Bai Yuan was forcibly held down by the two, and like stuffing a sausage, they made him drink the remaining half bottle. Because of his poor drinking capacity, he almost turned into a human fountain from their antics. In the late night, the sky was dotted with stars. Although there was no moon, the night was still exceptionally beautiful. Bai Yuan, with his terrible alcohol tolerance, had already passed out, clutching the beer bottle after 3 bottles. The hot pot on the table had gone out, with a thick layer of oil floating on top. The dishes on the plate were completely empty, and there were a dozen empty beer bottles scattered on the floor. On the rooftop, Gu Zhiyong and Zhao Pengfei were enjoying this slightly tipsy breeze while smoking. I lost Qin Feng, and I am also responsible for him becoming like this. No matter what, I owe you an apology. I'm sorry. Looking at Gu Zhiyong's sincere face, Zhao Pengfei smiled and said, There's no need for a squad leader to apologize to his soldiers. Besides, Qin Feng happened to gain from this misfortune, didn't he? Gu Zhiyong did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked up at the sky and exhaled a puff of smoke that resembled cotton candy. Indeed, the minimum expectation should be a second-class merit. It takes an ordinary person many years of hard work to earn just a couple of third-class merits. Hey, why are you cursing while chatting? Seeing Zhao Pengfei's anxious expression, Gu Zhiyong couldn't help but laugh heartily. Ha ha ha, I almost forgot about you. Suddenly, Gu Zhiyong asked him, have you ever thought about going to a military academy for further studies? Zhao Pengfei was taken aback and shook his head. I think I'll pass. I'm already past the age limit. Gu Zhiyong chuckled, why not? Don't you want to get promoted? Zhao Pengfei's smile turned a bit bitter when I first arrived. I really wanted to. But now, I've long since let it go, and besides, I'm already over 25. He smiled again, but didn't continue further. If Qin Feng truly achieved great merit, as a new squad leader, Zhao Pengfei would also receive attention and rewards. However, it was still too early to talk about that. Everything depended on Qin Feng waking up and returning to the unit. Zhao Pengfei suddenly asked, by the way, how's your lifelong affair going? Any progress? Gu Zhiyong paused for a moment and then sighed. I've been so busy lately that I completely forgot about her. Zhao Pengfei laughed and nudged him. I told you. Women are never as appealing as brothers. Gu Zhiyong took out a cigarette and beckoned to him with his finger. After lighting it with his lighter, he casually pocketed it. He then exhaled a puff of smoke, looking contemplative. Women only slowed down my speed in drawing my gun. Seeing Zhao Pengfei's lack of reaction to his words, Gu Zhiyong silently cursed himself, thinking, damn it, is it my way of showing off that's wrong? How come when Qin Feng says it, it sounds so cool, but when I say it, it just loses its charm? Alright, enough chatting. It's getting late. Let's head back to sleep. We have training tomorrow. Squad leader. The lighter. Give it back to me. Just as Gu Zhiyong was about to leave, Zhao Pengfei suddenly pulled him back. Seeing the intense look in Zhao Pengfei's eyes, he felt a bit displeased. I mean, have you really gotten so carried away that you dare to ask for a lighter back? You've smoked plenty of my cigarettes. That lighter was given to me by Qin Feng. Looking at the urgency in Zhao Pengfei's eyes, Gu Zhiyong was taken aback. Then, like a good kid, he quickly returned the lighter to Zhao Pengfei. Sorry about that. No problem. Holding the lighter, which had a red flag and the words striving for excellence inscribed on it, Zhao Pengfei flicked it open with a snap. As the flame appeared, his smile was so wide it seemed it could not fade. Seeing Zhao Pengfei in such a state, Gu Zhiyong couldn't help but shake his head. No saving him now. He's completely under Qin Feng's spell. Damn it. Why doesn't anyone from the 6th company send me something to keep me in check? I am not someone who can be easily manipulated. Why hasn't anyone come to influence me? It seems I should remind them to bring this kind of unhealthy trend in sooner. Before I know it, a week has passed. On this day, Zhao Pengfei specifically asked for leave from Gu Zhiyong to visit Qin Feng in the hospital. Although no one is allowed to go out during the training period, the commander had already given the green light for this matter. At this point, Qin Feng's heroic deeds had already spread throughout the new recruits company. The 402 Border Defense Regiment had also become a hot topic of discussion among various units in the brigade due to this incident. When Xiao Guohai and others came to the regiment for a meeting, more people took the initiative to talk to them. As for the most discussed topic among the majority in the regiment, it was still about the level of merit. No one knew whether Qin Feng would return with a second-class or first-class merit. The former was rare, while the latter was more common. But until there was a final conclusion, no one could be certain. During the time when Qin Feng was absent, the new recruits in Class 4 walked with a certain swagger. Not even the duty personnel dared to compete with them for food. Even the cooking team specially prepared extra meals for them. Why? Because our class has Qin Feng. Does yours? In the hospital room, Zhao Pengfei placed the carnations he bought along the way on the bedside table. Seeing that Qin Feng looked much better than the last time he visited, a smile appeared on his face. Although it would still take about a week for him to wake up, at this rate of recovery, he would be fine soon. After sitting down, Zhao Pengfei casually turned on the television. The classic work Liang Jian by teacher Li Yubin was playing on the screen. The scene showed the classic moment. 2nd Battalion Commander, bring out that damn Italian cannon. With the sound of a cannon firing on the TV, Comrade Xiuqin perished along with the castle tower of Ping'an County. It was this sound that made Qin Feng's fingers twitch suddenly on the hospital bed. Body repair 68, 69. 70 forced hibernation has ended. Zhao Pengfei widened his eyes, almost thinking he was seeing things. But the next second, Qin Feng's fingers twitched again. Suddenly, it seemed he heard a faint sound. Zhao Pengfei quickly turned off the TV, leaned closer to Qin Feng, and bent down to listen carefully. Class leader. Zhao Pengfei stared at Qin Feng in disbelief, completely stunned. Didn't the experts say it would be another week? How could he wake up early? Just as Zhao Pengfei was about to rush to call the doctor, a hand suddenly grasped his wrist. Qin Feng, as if just waking up, slowly opened his eyes and removed the oxygen mask with his other hand. Then, in an extremely weak voice, he asked, Class leader, did our class win the flowing red flag? Boom. Zhao Pengfei felt as if something had shattered his heart. 2 lines of hot tears rolled down his cheeks, dripping onto the sheets. You bastard, waking up just to make me cry. Even in such a state, he was still thinking about this. You little rascal. He tried twice to lift his hand to pat Qin Feng on the shoulder, but in the end, his hand just hit the air. Hearing that the flowing red flag had been retrieved by Li Jiaxing and the others, a slow smile appeared on Qin Feng's pale face. Class monitor, it's great to see you alive. At that moment, Zhao Pengfei felt as if his heart was being tightly squeezed by a pair of hands. He tried hard to control his emotions, but his shoulders trembled uncontrollably. Zhao Pengfei suddenly turned around, covering his face with his sleeve, and rushed out of the hospital room as if escaping. Doctor, the patient is awake, the patient is awake. Qin Feng propped himself up and slowly sat up on the bed. Looking at the patient gown he was wearing and the bandages wrapped around his arms and thighs, he let out a helpless sigh. The system could only restore him to 70%. The remaining 30% would have to come gradually. However, this was also a good thing, serving as a kind of self-protection mechanism. Otherwise, if he recovered too quickly and too absurdly, he might end up being taken for research purposes. Qin Feng twisted his stiff neck, beginning to slowly regain control of his body. He turned to look at the clear blue sky outside the window, grinning and revealing a smile of relief after surviving a disaster. Surviving a great calamity brings future blessings. Brothers of Class 4, your vice monitor is coming back soon. Qin Feng is about to return to the army, and more exciting stories are on the way. No prize guessing. Everyone guess whether Xiao Fengfeng will receive first class or second class merit. Chapter 82. Heroes welcome. Welcome home. Where's my hair? Where are my eyebrows? I don't even have nose hair. Looking at the mirror, he saw that he was completely bald. His skin was a patchwork of red and dark spots, resembling a pixelated mosaic. Qin Feng felt extremely, incredibly, and utterly strange. With this appearance, he looked like a spoiled boiled egg. Not to mention being handsome. He could scare children on the street during the day without even trying to act scary. Actually, it had already been 4 days since Qin Feng woke up. During these 4 days, the doctors had conducted a series of examinations on him. They applied ointment to help with his recovery and wrapped his face in bandages. Just a moment ago, he had removed the bandages and finally saw his appearance, which was comparable to that of Quasimodo. Qin Feng, hurry up. How much longer are you going to take? At that moment, the voice of Company Commander Gu Zhiong came from outside. But immediately after, Zhao Pengfei's voice rebutted. Why are you rushing him? Qin Feng, it's fine, we can wait a little outside, just get dressed and come out. Got it, I'll be ready soon. He glanced at the military uniform hanging on the towel rack, and then looked at his dreadful face in the mirror. Qin Feng couldn't help but smile bitterly. It was the first time he felt that his appearance might be too much of a disgrace to the uniform. 5 minutes later, the bathroom door opened. Qin Feng had changed into his military uniform and walked out in leather shoes. However, when Gu Zhiong saw Qin Feng coming out, he couldn't help but burst out laughing. You little rascal, you were wrapped up like a mummy a couple of days ago, and now you look like the villain Ji Chunhua. This time, I finally found a bit of confidence in you. Qin Feng felt a bit embarrassed. It's true that right now, he does resemble teacher Ji Chunhua a bit. However, Zhao Pengfei shot a complaining glance at the squad leader, prompting the squad leader to clear his throat and slightly restrain his smile. Just a joke. He still looks quite dashing, like a decent person. Qin Feng really wanted to find a hole to hide in. It would have been better if they had tried to make excuses. At that moment, Zhao Pengfei stepped forward, kindly helping him adjust his collar and smooth out the wrinkles in his clothes. Qin Feng's hair and eyebrows would grow back. His skin tone would gradually return to normal, and most importantly, he was still alive. Then, Zhao Pengfei lightly patted his shoulder and said, let us go. Many people are waiting for you. At that moment, Qin Feng didn't know why, but he suddenly had the feeling of getting married. The car slowly started and drove out of the parking lot. However, as soon as they exited the hospital gate, Qin Feng froze. The streets outside the hospital were crowded with people of all ages. Among them, there were many familiar faces. Those young faces were the children he had rescued from the fire. Those wrapped in bandages, leaning on crutches, or in cast were the people he had saved during the explosion. Qin Feng even spotted a taxi driver waving vigorously at him from the crowd. The excited young man next to him, who looked about the same age as Qin Feng, should be his son. How is it? I told you many people were waiting for you, right? Zhao Pengfei turned back and said with a smile. Qin Feng, shocked, forced a bitter smile. Squad leader. I thought you were talking about Li Jiaxing and the others. Zhao Pengfei shook his head. Everyone came specifically to thank you after hearing that you were discharged today. You saved them during the explosion and fire. To them, you gave them a second chance at life. But isn't that what we soldiers are supposed to do? Qin Feng replied. We train for thousands of days to be used in a moment of crisis. Why does the country provide for us so well? With allowances, retirement benefits in the tens of thousands, and so many preferential policies for soldiers? We soldiers should step up in the most difficult times. It just happened that Qin Feng was at the scene. In such a crisis, he believed that any active or retired soldier would have stepped up. Hearing Qin Feng's words, Zhao Pengfei and Gu Zhiong exchanged a glance, both showing a look of appreciation. It's commendable to achieve such great merit while remaining true to one's original intentions. However, facing the enthusiasm of the people, Qin Feng, who was experiencing this for the first time, was somewhat overwhelmed. Many civilians chased the car, desperately trying to stuff things through the window. But the military has rules. They cannot accept anything from civilians. So, Qin Feng could only keep pushing things out and politely refusing. Looking in the rearview mirror at the warmth and enthusiasm surrounding Qin Feng, Gu Xiong felt an indescribable envy. If in my lifetime, I could experience such treatment, I would willingly give up 10 years of life for it. I would even give up 20 years. Staring at Zhao Pengfei beside him, Gu Xiong was filled with anger. You little brat, are you getting involved with me? Zhao Pengfei laughed heartily, but suddenly froze the next moment. What the heck? Are they stuffing money in here? Watching a large stack of red bills being shoved into the car. Not just Qin Feng, but the other two in the vehicle were also dumbfounded. Accepting a little gesture from the common people is fine. It's a reflection of the bond between the military and civilians. But accepting money changes the situation. This bond would be tainted. Brother, take this money back. We can't accept it. The military has discipline. We really can't take it. Qin Feng insisted, pushing the money back out, but it was always thrown back in. The man giving the money, with reddened eyes, chased alongside the car and said, Comrade, you saved our little Xian's life. If it weren't for you wrapping him in that blanket and shielding him with your body, he would be gone now. We don't have much money. This 100,000 is our small token of appreciation. Please, you must accept it. In the end, it was Zhao Pengfei who helped explain, saying that if they accepted it, Qin Feng would face punishment, and only then did the man relent. However, he still insisted that if it couldn't be accepted personally, he would donate the money to Qin Feng's unit. The debt of saving a life is greater than the sky. He must express his gratitude, or his conscience would never be at peace. Sometimes, many things are contradictory. Not taking a single stitch from the common people is a strict rule in the military. But if they truly accept nothing, it only makes the people feel cold. So ultimately, Qin Feng could only seek the squad leader's approval to accept some less valuable items like milk and fruits. Just then, Gu Xiong suddenly hit the brakes. As Qin Feng was puzzled about why they had stopped so abruptly, he saw the crowd parting ahead. A couple in their 40s, holding a black and white photograph, slowly walked to the military vehicle and knelt down with a thud. The three on the vehicle hurriedly got out, wanting to help them up. Brother, sister, what are you doing? Please get up, get up. Looking at the smiling little girl in the photograph, Qin Feng felt a sharp pain in his heart. He knew that these two were the parents of that little girl. After being helped up, the woman, with tears streaming down her face, looked at Qin Feng and said, Comrade, thank you for putting that shoe on my daughter in the end. On the road to the underworld, it ensured she wouldn't walk barefoot. Soldier comrade, thank you for preserving our daughter's last dignity. This is your uniform. We came to return it to you. Looking at the completely cleaned camouflage uniform they took out, memories of that moment flooded back to Qin Feng. Uncle Soldier, thank you for your hard work in protecting our home and country. It's not hard at all. It's you who work hard studying. Qin Feng accepted the clothing and deeply bowed to the grieving parents. This scene not only brought the couple to tears again, but also made many onlookers secretly wipe away their tears. The most painful thing in life is indeed to send off one's own child. Compared to this little girl's parents, they are fortunate. The soldiers from a certain country have given their child a second chance at life. Long live the People's Liberation Army. Long live the soldiers from a certain country. It is unclear who started the chant first, but soon more people joined in. The three returned to the vehicle, which had already driven quite far. Yet, they could still hear the heartfelt shouts from the street behind them. Gu Xiong gripped the steering wheel tightly, his eyes reddening with excitement. There is no regret in joining the military in this life. The best decision I have ever made is to enlist. Zhao Pengfei took a deep breath, equally moved. If there is a next life, I want to continue guarding the homes and the well-being of the people. Watching the crowd gradually disappear in the rearview mirror and the streets quickly retreating on both sides, Qin Feng's mind was still filled with those resonant cheers. Long live the People's Liberation Army. Long live the soldiers from a certain country. Over an hour later, the vehicle finally arrived outside the barracks of the new recruits. After being away for many days, seeing the familiar gate brought a sense of warmth to Qin Feng's heart. This feeling was akin to a mother welcoming her child back home. Attention! At that moment, two sentries wearing private ranks suddenly stood tall at the entrance, raising their right hands in a solemn salute towards Qin Feng in the vehicle. Qin Feng was taken aback for a moment, but quickly lowered the window to return the salute. Welcome home, hero. Hearing this made Qin Feng's heart feel as if it would melt. I'm home. I'm back home. On the training ground, other classes were training, but Class 4 was nowhere to be seen. Attention! At this moment, squad leader Yang Kaifeng led all the new recruits in his squad to salute Qin Feng collectively. Salute. 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 As Qin Feng walked along, soldiers from various classes, both new and old, expressed their respect towards him, especially when he passed by the canteen. A group of veteran cooks were already waiting at the entrance. Before he even reached them, the veterans had already turned half of their bodies to the left and saluted him vigorously, their bodies rotating in a fan shape according to Qin Feng's position. This is the treatment of a hero. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Quick, quick. Can you move a bit faster? The class vice leader will be back soon, so get it together. In the dormitory of Class 4, a group of excited new recruits was bustling about. Li Jiaxing was darting back and forth like a monkey, directing the scene. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the corridor. Brother Feng is back. Brother Feng is back. Chen Sanchi rushed back in a hurry to report. Upon hearing that he was back, Li Jiaxing was astonished. He is back so soon? We haven't set everything up yet. Chen Sanchi scratched his head. Should I go stop Brother Feng and let him walk around a bit longer? Walk around? In the next moment, Qin Feng appeared at the door with a broad smile, but he was immediately dazzled by the sight before him. Inside the dormitory, a group of shiny bald heads looked just like boiled eggs. Li Jiaxing's electric clippers were still buzzing in his hand, but his head had already transformed into a smooth dome, reminiscent of a character from a palace drama. The ground was strewn with small clumps of black hair. How about it? Looking good, right? Qi Ming patted his bald head and smiled at him. Pretty cool, right? You look tough. Chen Sanchi raised his non-existent eyebrows. This was all Li Jiaxing's idea. He said, you've already stolen the spotlight, so we should share in the glory too. The others chimed in, laughing. Qin Feng was instantly filled with tears and dropped his bag, charging towards them. You guys, how dare you copy me? Chapter 83. Where's the reward? Why is there nothing at all? Hurry up, run faster. Step it up. Are you all just strolling around here? In the morning, the new recruits were running 3 kilometers on the playground. The squad leaders at the back were as irritable as ever, herding the troops like sheep. However, within the ranks, there was a particularly unique group. They had no eyebrows, and their heads were completely bald, with not a strand of hair in sight. Although all the recruits in the 4th squad had turned into boiled eggs, no one from the entire rookie battalion mocked them. Because some things seem silly when done by one person, but look impressively cool when done by a group. The 3 kilometers were quickly completed, and each squad, led by their squad leaders, gradually left the playground. Yet, one person continued to run laps, standing out from the rest, not far from the flag platform. Gu Xiong frowned slightly. This kid Qin Feng is serious. He really plans to make up for the training he missed before? Can his body handle it? Zhao Pengfei chuckled wryly. At first, I thought he was just talking, but you've seen it these past 2 days. He's been completing all the training at double the intensity. As for his physique, he looks as strong as a little calf, completely unlike someone who just got out of the hospital. TSK, 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 Gu Xiong shook his head. If this were ancient times, it would be a shame not to use that strength for farming. Luckily, he joined the army. Otherwise, how many girls would be in trouble? Of course, such borderline comments were only kept to himself by the principled Gu Xiong. At noon, after finishing lunch in the cafeteria, everyone returned to their dorms for a short rest. Qin Feng also returned to the dormitory building, but stood at attention in the corridor, practicing his marching. These were the training sessions he owed from the days he was unconscious. He couldn't afford to slack off, not even for a day. It wasn't that Qin Feng was overly competitive or enjoyed self-punishment. It was just that after lying in the hospital for so long, while others were making progress, he felt like he was stuck in place, especially when he learned that everyone had already started equipment training a week ago, and he hadn't even touched the parallel bars yet. That sense of urgency hit him hard. Thus, Qin Feng pushed himself to complete the training subjects he had missed one by one. Fortunately, with the system's support, his training improvements were also helping him recover his body continuously. If it weren't for the pressure, Qin Feng would never have dared to stir things up right after being discharged from the hospital. Qin Feng. By the pool, Qin Feng was washing his face with facial cleanser. As he washed, he inadvertently ended up cleaning his scalp as well. To be honest, it was much easier without hair. Not only did he save on shampoo, but he also lost the burden of maintaining an image. He quickly rinsed the foam off his face and then turned to Chen Sanchi. What is up? Chen Sanchi leaned closer, looking a bit nervous. I've been holding in a lot of words for these past few days. The video of you saving people, the squad leader showed it to us, and it scared me so much that I had nightmares for several nights. I just wanted to ask, weren't you afraid with such a big fire? That fire was massive. It could have cost you your life. Hearing Chen Sanchi's words, the others in class 4 immediately looked over. In the days since Qin Feng returned, they had been trying hard to pretend that nothing had happened. They avoided bringing anything up to prevent stirring up any bad feelings for him. However, after observing for a couple of days, they noticed that the squad leader was still the same, unaffected by the incident. Chen Sanchi, being the chatterbox he was, couldn't hold back, and as soon as he spoke, it piqued everyone's curiosity. Of course I was scared, Qin Feng replied without hesitation, catching the new recruits off guard. Qi Ming looked incredulous. You were scared, yet you still rushed in? With that explosion and fire, if it were me, my legs would have turned to jelly, let alone charging in to help. Li Jeju nodded. Squad leader, are you just joking with us? Trying to pull our leg? Qin Feng chuckled helplessly. What is there to lie about? I was indeed very scared at the time, but the situation was too urgent, and I just forgot all about it. My mind was solely focused on saving people. I didn't think about anything else and just charged in. Although Qin Feng spoke so casually, everyone knew how critical the situation had been. Even if he claimed that any soldier would have rushed in without hesitation during such a crisis, the reality was that if it were them, they might not have had the courage to do so. This was entirely understandable. Fear is inherent to humanity. The fear of death is a natural instinct. New recruits who have just joined the army often struggle to grasp the meaning of sacrifice. But as they wear the uniform longer and as their belief in the red banner takes root in their hearts, they gradually come to terms with that awareness. It's like many new soldiers trembling so much before going into battle that they can barely hold their rifles. They fear death, fear never seeing their families again, and fear never seeing the sun rise again. Yet, when the charge sounds, when the gunfire erupts, everyone forgets their fear as adrenaline surges. Squad leader, let me ask a side question. Why is it that you've been back for so long, yet there hasn't been any news from above? Li Jiejun's question immediately resonated with everyone. Yeah, shouldn't there be some recognition for meritorious service in the military, like second or third class awards? Yes. It's not just the new recruits. Even the veterans are discussing how much merit you can earn this time. Many people are saying you are bound to receive a first-class merit award, while a few speculate it might be a second-class award, claiming that in times of peace, one has to take it easy to earn a first-class merit. Take it easy? Qin Feng was both amused and exasperated by Chun Sanchi's innocent expression. If it weren't for the system's restrictions, he would indeed be taking it easy right now. However, he wasn't entirely sure about that. For Qin Feng, he was merely fulfilling his duty as a soldier. If there were no rewards, that was fine. If there were, that would be even better. After all, if he could really earn a first-class merit, he would be promoted and guaranteed a spot in the military academy. Once he returned from the academy, his prospects for development would also see a significant improvement. It was like walking 25,000 miles on foot and suddenly finding oneself on a high-speed train. Of course, that was all talk for later. Whether that reward would actually come was still uncertain. Qin Feng wouldn't be foolish enough to run to the company commander and ask, "Old Deng, where's my reward? Hurry up and give it to me." So, regarding everyone's questions, he, the person involved, couldn't provide an answer. The next morning, after the new recruits finished washing up and returned to the dormitory, a long and short assembly whistle suddenly sounded from downstairs. Following that, the company commander's voice called out. All classes were to change into military uniforms and assemble downstairs, preparing to head to the regiment's auditorium. Upon hearing this, everyone in the fourth-class dormitory turned to look at Qin Feng all at once. Even Zhao Pengfei wore an incredibly bright smile. "Qin Feng, your recognition is here." Chapter 84. New Recruit Qin Feng, First-Class Merit Recipient. The regiment's auditorium was brightly lit, exuding a solemn and sacred atmosphere. It was quite large, capable of accommodating more than 2,000 people. At this moment, all the veterans and officers from 14 companies, along with all the new recruits, had gathered. At the front of the auditorium, there was a row of tables. Sitting in the center was a middle-aged man in his 50s, wearing the Wheat Ear Star insignia. This man was the commander, Wei Shanha. Logically, given the presence of so many high-ranking officials, Qiu Guohai should only be able to sit in the audience. However, at that moment, he was appearing on stage alongside the brigade and division commanders. For him, this was an immense honor, and his smile was nearly overflowing. Goodness! Chen Sanchi stared wide-eyed at the front. So many high-ranking officials. Qi Ming was also stunned. I've only seen scenes like this on TV before. I never expected to have the chance to participate in person. Thank goodness I joined the army. Otherwise, how could we ordinary folks ever witness such a grand occasion? Li Jiaxing's face was equally filled with excitement. Although his family was wealthy and he had seen a lot of the world, the so-called experiences he had before paled in comparison to today's event. He knew that as soon as the leaders sitting at the front waved their hands, they could easily make certain troublemakers flee in panic, crying for help. Although society had entered a civilized era, people still inherently revered strength. Even though our mother never actively seeks trouble, it is only when we are strong that we can teach those who dare to provoke us a lesson. At this moment, the most excited are Zhao Pengfei and Ge Zhiyong, because Qin Feng is a soldier they have trained in their pride. Silence. At this moment, a commanding voice echoed, immediately silencing the crowd. Wei Shanha stood up and spoke into the microphone seriously. Today, we have gathered here to honor a hero. More than half a month ago, the news of the explosion in the old city should have been seen by everyone in the newspapers and on television, right? A gas leak caused an explosion that swept through half a street, taking many innocent lives. Later, as the fire spread to the upper floors, the situation became urgent. Before the fire department and emergency personnel arrived, one of our soldiers stepped forward. As Wei Shanha recounted the events, the large screen behind him began to play footage of the rescue operation. The devastating scenes, raging flames, and thick black smoke moved everyone's hearts. Qin Feng sat in the front row, also watching the rescue footage on the screen. But to be honest, the first-person perspective and the third-person perspective are completely different experiences. Especially when he saw himself being blasted into the air and crashing onto the roof of a private car, his face turned pale. Cold sweat broke out on his palms. And he couldn't help but feel a wave of fear. At that height, and with that impact, an ordinary person would have died 100 times over. Fortunately, with the system's protection, otherwise, Qin Feng would have been finished. Nevertheless, even if he had to do it all over again, even without the system, he would still charge forward without hesitation, because a soldier should step up in times of crisis. Private Qin Feng. Here. Qin Feng quickly stood up and jogged onto the stage. Once he reached the commanding officer, he came to a halt and saluted vigorously. Wei Shanha smiled back at him, and then solemnly said, after research and discussion by the higher-ups, it has been decided to award you a first-class merit medal and the title of People's Guardian. With that, he opened the wooden box in his hands, revealing an exquisitely crafted first-class merit medal. Qin Feng's eyes sparkled because he knew that earning merit in peacetime is not an easy task. Even a second-class merit often requires significant sacrifice, and a first-class merit, even more so, needs to be recognized under a banner. But now, as a new recruit, he had received such an honor while still alive. How could he not be excited? How could he not be thrilled? The title of People's Guardian is also a supreme honor, awarded only to those who make significant contributions to protect lives. Wei Shanha handed the certificate of the People's Guardian to Qin Feng and personally pinned the first-class merit medal on his chest. Comrade Qin Feng, although you are just a new recruit, the spirit and determination you have shown are unmatched by any veteran. In times of danger, it was you who stepped forward without hesitation, saving the people from peril. You used your body to protect that 4-year-old child. Here, on behalf of the troops and the people, I thank you for your dedication. I hope you can continue to work hard and better fulfill your duties as a soldier, contributing more to the country. Yes, Commander, I will definitely remember my mission and keep striving. Qin Feng firmly shook Wei Changjuan's hand, his expression extremely solemn. Clap, clap, clap. At that moment, thunderous applause erupted. Everyone present stood up and applauded vigorously. Watching Qin Feng bathed in applause and honor, Zhao Pengfei felt his eyes redden. He is my soldier, my Zhao Pengfei's soldier. The new recruits in the 4th squad were also incredibly excited, each one nearly clapping their hands raw. This is our squad leader, our 4th squad's squad leader. Feeling the envious gazes from other squads, Li Jiaxing and others proudly puffed out their chests. There was even a sense that this honor and reward also belonged to them. Perhaps this is what it means to share in the glory. Commander, I have something to report. At this moment, Qin Feng suddenly spoke again. Speak. Qin Feng smiled and turned to look at the audience, then locked his gaze on a figure. Seeing Qin Feng looking at him, Zhao Pengfei's body jolted, seemingly realizing something. The next words from Qin Feng made the military commander's eyelids twitch and left the others present dumbfounded, exclaiming that he was truly bold. Chapter 85. Commander, are we isolated? After the commendation meeting, training resumed as usual in the morning. While the squad leaders encouraged everyone to learn from Qin Feng, they were also trying every means to motivate the new recruits in their squads. Although by now, the name Qin Feng was already well known among the new recruits, his presence did not make everyone lax, dejected, or give up. Instead, it significantly increased the enthusiasm for training among the new recruits. Why? Because everyone saw a path for advancement and promotion. Even if they couldn't be as strong as Qin Feng, a first-class meritorious soldier and a defender of the people, there were still many opportunities for third-class and second-class honors in the military. As long as they could make breakthroughs in training and break previous records, they would have the chance to earn such honors, at the very least receiving a commendation. These honors not only help them broaden their paths in the military, but also ensure they receive more upon retirement. In the military, there's never been a saying about submitting to anyone. There's no first in literature and no second in martial arts. Competition is always the main theme. Just imagine, if you could surpass such a first-class meritorious soldier in training, how impressive would that be? At this moment, Qin Feng was like a catalyst, igniting the once flickering flames into a roaring fire. In the company office, seeing the unprecedented enthusiasm of the new recruits on the training field, Gu Xiong wore a broad smile. This kind of healthy competition is exactly what he, as the company commander, most hoped to see. At that moment, Bai Yuan also walked over. The entire company has been energized, and the batch of new recruits we are training this year will definitely not disappoint. Gu Xiong nodded with a smile. Yeah, thanks to this kid, he's leading the way. At that moment, the office door was suddenly pushed open. Upon seeing the visitor, Gu Xiong and Bai Yuan quickly stood up straight and saluted. Hello, Commander. Qiu Guohai walked in holding a document bag and nodded at the two. He walked to the window and looked at the new recruits energetically training on the field, a smile appearing on his face. Oh, the enthusiasm of the new recruits is quite high, isn't it? It seems this meritorious figure has made quite an impact on everyone. Gu Xiong replied with a smile. Yes. No one wants to lose. Everyone wants to compete. They are starting to show some soldierly qualities. That's good. That's good. Our regiment can finally shed the label of being at the bottom. Noticing Qiu Guohai holding the document bag, Gu Xiong guessed that there was something important. Commander, is there any instruction? It's not exactly an instruction. I just came to brew a cup of tea and sit down for a chat. All right. After sitting down, Qiu Guohai handed him a document. Gu Xiong took it in surprise and immediately opened it to check. It was a red-headed document issued by the division headquarters. Seeing the contents, Gu Xiong's face showed some astonishment, but more was joy. However, soon after, his expression became somewhat complicated. Commander, this is an order from above. Qiu Guohai said helplessly. Actually, the division commander spoke to me about this plan half a year ago, but he was also considering your steel knife company. So the order was only officially given recently. From today onwards, your steel knife company will no longer belong to our 402 Border Defense Regiment, but will become an independent unit under the command of the division. Of course, the barracks will remain in the same location, and I will occasionally relay messages to you. Gu Xiong remained silent. His emotions were a bit complicated. He hoped the steel knife company could gain better resources and improve, but he was really reluctant to leave the 402 Border Defense Regiment. Suddenly being separated felt like leaving the embrace of a mother. Xiao Gu, this is a good thing for you. Qiu Guohai said earnestly. Our regiment is the weakest in the division, and the higher-ups don't want your development to be constrained by us. After all, we are all serving the country and standing guard for our motherland. So we are still in the same division. In the future, we can still visit each other and have competitions and training together without any issues. Gu Xiong took a deep breath. Commander, no matter what, once a member of the Border Defense Regiment, always a member of the Border Defense Regiment. The Steel Knife Company has developed to this day under your nurturing. Qiu Guohai smiled slightly. I'm satisfied as long as you have this thought. When the funding increases, don't forget to support us a bit. Of course, no problem. Logically, you no longer belong to our regiment, so I should replace the new recruit company commander. But changing commanders at the last moment is not a good idea. Before Qiu Guohai could finish his words, he was interrupted by Gu Xiong. Captain, we are family, so there's no need to be formal. This is my responsibility and obligation. Besides, when it comes time to distribute the troops, I'll need to borrow some new recruits from you, right? Qiu Guohai smiled briefly but did not respond. The atmosphere suddenly became somewhat awkward. It was Bai Yuan who helped to ease the tension, covering up the awkwardness. After that, Gu Xiong and Qiu Guohai chatted a bit more, but it was clear that both felt a bit unnatural. Everyone knew that in the military, quality recruits were crucial. The 402nd Regiment was weak precisely because it couldn't secure good soldiers. Now that there was finally a promising candidate who would easily let go, especially that exceptionally talented kid, Bai Yuan even felt that they might end up in a fierce competition over Qin Feng. Captain, I'll go supervise their training now. Go ahead. After Gu Xiong left, Qiu Guohai lit a cigarette and looked at Bai Yuan. You know what I want to say? I do. Qiu Guohai nodded. Then I'll speak frankly. You know the situation in our regiment. Losing the Steel Knife Company has already severely weakened us. I absolutely cannot let Gu Xiong take any new recruits, especially that kid Qin Feng. Bai Yuan nodded. After all, he is a walking first-class merit, I understand. Qiu Guohai felt somewhat helpless. Our regiment is at the bottom of the brigade, and we really need a standout recruit to maintain our reputation. Perhaps, once we become stronger, we can afford to be less concerned about these matters. But for now, I must care. Next, I need you to do a good job with Qin Feng's mindset, making him feel more belonging to our regiment. Just in case there's an interview from some newspaper one day, he needs to know what to say. And try not to mention personal matters, only refer to our regiment. Bai Yuan nodded, somewhat amused yet understanding Qiu Guohai's good intentions. Lacking strength means we need to rely on reputation. Having a new recruit achieve first-class merit is the best honor. Meanwhile, at the base of the wall beside the training field, Gu Xiong and Zhao Pengfei were smoking and discussing something. Squad leader, are we really independent now? Yes. I've seen the documents. We are now an independent unit under the brigade. So, will we be isolated next? Zhao Pengfei was uncertain whether to be happy or not. Isolated? Gu Xiong glanced at him. The entire new recruit company belongs to the border regiment, and we are the only outsiders. Why didn't the captain wait until the new recruit company was done before notifying us? You have soldiers with you now, so you can't go back. Because he wanted to confront me directly. Gu Xiong frowned. I just mentioned distributing some soldiers to me, and he didn't even respond. So, does that mean Qin Feng can't be taken away? Zhao Pengfei suddenly became anxious. Not just Qin Feng. He won't let me take any soldier at all. He wants me to continue with the labor. Gu Xiong scratched his head, feeling frustrated. I can understand the captain's thoughts. He was recently recognized by the brigade commander at a meeting, walking on the path of honor, yet still a rookie. How significant is this honor? He needs Qin Feng to uphold the image of the regiment, and the Border Defense Regiment currently needs something to maintain its facade. If the Steel Knife Company doesn't break off on its own, Qin Feng is definitely going to be assigned here. But now, this issue has become quite complicated. So, what should we do? Zhao Pengfei frowned. Are we really going to leave such a good soldier for him? Gu Xiong sighed. I haven't figured out how to deal with this yet. The order came too suddenly. It has me baffled. Moreover, whether it's the regiment commander or the chief of staff, both of them are reluctant to let good soldiers go, and we are in a tricky situation this time. Wait, how does this also involve the chief of staff? Zhao Pengfei was stunned. Why is there another layer to this? Gu Xiong glanced at him. Yesterday afternoon, the chief of staff sent many military strategy books to Qin Feng. Also, after he transferred that staff member with the surname Su, he has kept that position open. Who do you think he is waiting for? Damn. Zhao Pengfei felt a wave of despair wash over him. The joy he felt from Qin Feng's award vanished in an instant. He turned to look at the training field in the distance, where he could still see a lone figure practicing diligently, and his heart was filled with mixed emotions. Qin Feng, can't you be a little more mediocre? Now you've attracted so many complications. How am I supposed to handle this as the squad leader? Chapter 86. 15 million. The lottery belongs to others. Qin Feng. Look. These are the predecessors who have made remarkable contributions to our 402nd Regiment. These are the glorious histories of our regiment, and the victories we've achieved one after another. After looking at these, I believe you must have many feelings in your heart, right? Yes, instructor, I understand. Qin Feng nodded vigorously at the instructor. But inside, he felt extremely speechless. This was already the third time in half a month the instructor had brought him to the regiment's honor room. The honor room serves as an important place for patriotic education for officers and soldiers, showcasing heroic figures, heroic deeds, and the glorious military history of the unit. During the first visit, Qin Feng was deeply moved and touched. From these texts and photos, he could deeply understand the extraordinary contributions of this old unit during wartime and its development over the years. However, during the second visit, Qin Feng still felt a bit touched. By the third visit, he had become completely numb. He had no idea why the instructor kept bringing him to the honor room. After all, some things only need to be said once. Repeating them can be quite tedious. Of course, it wasn't just the instructor. Qin Feng felt that ever since that day he received the award in the grand auditorium, the atmosphere in the new recruits company became strange. Those squad leaders would occasionally come to chat with him, discussing life and ideals. The regiment commander would check in on everyone's training results from time to time, pulling Qin Feng aside to ask about his well-being, almost as if trying to reinforce his presence, listening to the same introduction and the same rhetoric. Although Qin Feng's eyes were fixed on the honor wall, his gaze was actually unfocused, and he was already drifting off mentally. However, Qin Feng's profound gaze led the instructor, Bai Yuan, to mistakenly believe it was a sign of enlightenment. A hint of a satisfied smile appeared on his lips. It seemed that this approach truly had its effect. As long as he kept bringing Qin Feng to the honor room and introducing the heroic deeds of the predecessors in the regiment, it would instill a sense of belonging and mission in him. It would help him realize that he was part of the Border Defense Regiment, thereby altering his internal thoughts. When it was time to return to the unit, he could take him one last time to reinforce this understanding. As soon as Qin Feng returned to the dormitory, he was called out by Zhao Pengfei. Before Zhao Pengfei could ask anything, Qin Feng proactively confessed. The instructor took me to the honor room again. Again? How many times has it been this month? The third time. Seeing Zhao Pengfei's grim expression, Qin Feng couldn't help but ask, Squad leader, has something happened in the company recently? I feel like everyone is acting a bit unusual. Faced with Qin Feng's question, Zhao Pengfei felt somewhat helpless and ultimately decided to be honest with him. Do you know why the instructor keeps taking you to the honor room? To understand our regiment's glorious history and the mission of a soldier? Yes, but do you know why he does this? Qin Feng shook his head, indicating he was unclear. Zhao Pengfei looked at him seriously and said, half a month ago, the Steel Knife Company was separated and placed under the command of the division commander. This isn't a good thing? Qin Feng was astonished. It's a good thing. But the problem is, from a strict sense, both the company commander and I no longer belong to the 402nd Regiment. Zhao Pengfei showed an awkward smile. Do you understand what I mean? Qin Feng felt somewhat amused and embarrassed. He finally understood why the veteran squad leaders had been treating him so well recently. As for why the instructor always took Qin Feng to the honor room, it made sense now. In a previous situation, due to personal issues, a soldier named Xiao Zhuang refused to stay in service. He was taken to the honor room by He Jijun, who did some ideological work with him. Ultimately, Xiao Zhuang changed his mind and chose to stay. The instructor's actions were evidently similar in intent. Squad leader, don't worry. I promised you I wouldn't go back on my word. Seeing Qin Feng's determined eyes, Zhao Pengfei remained silent for a long time before finally patting his shoulder. Qin Feng, I know you value loyalty, but sometimes things aren't as simple as you think. Strictly speaking, you are a soldier of the Border Defense Regiment, and the regiment needs you now. However, from a personal development perspective, it would definitely be best for you to come with us. In short, this matter is very contradictory. The company commander has been worried about it lately. Isn't there a reason to worry? Originally part of the regiment, now suddenly separated. That means not just for yourself, but all the new recruits in the regiment are no longer related to Guzhiyong. It can be said that for both the Steel Knife Company and the Border Defense Regiment, it is a situation where both sides suffer losses. Qin Feng really can't understand who issued such a foolish command. The Border Defense Regiment was already weak with the Steel Knife Company present, and now that the Steel Knife Company has been detached, won't it become even weaker? Anyone could easily take advantage of them. Qin Feng doesn't know what the higher-ups are thinking, and this matter is not addressed in his book. Anyway, whether from a personal development perspective or other angles, going to the Steel Knife Company is the best choice. However, Qin Feng also knows that it's not up to him to decide which unit to join. In the end, he still has to follow the arrangements from his superiors. Zhao Pengfei patted him on the back and sighed helplessly. All right, this isn't something you can control. The only thing you need to do now is to train hard. When the time comes, just follow orders, and if you stay, contribute to the regiment. Yes, squad leader. Watching Qin Feng's departing figure, Zhao Pengfei felt mixed emotions. It was like winning a lottery of 5 million, only to find out it was for someone else. At that moment, as Qin Feng reached the staircase, he was blocked by a group of veteran squad leaders. Clearly, they had been eavesdropping. So now, they simply dropped the pretense and showed their cards. Qin Feng, come to our Sharpshooter 4th Company. You'll get to shoot all kinds of firearms. Hey, come to our 3rd Company. We're mechanized infantry. You can ride a motorcycle every day. How cool is that? Our 9th Company has excellent food. If you want, you can eat 5 meals a day. Faced with so many eager offers, and without the protection of his squad leader, Qin Feng felt like a little lamb cornered by a pack of wolves. Hearing the commotion, Zhao Pengfei quickly ran down. But just as he was about to charge in to drive everyone away as usual, he stopped. In the past, he had reasons to intervene, but what about now? As an outsider, how could he manage affairs of another regiment? Forget it, he thought. If he can't take him away, so be it. At least he is still my soldier for now. With that thought, Zhao Pengfei crushed his cigarette butt on the ground, climbed over the railing, and charged up angrily. Get lost. I'm not dead yet. Get out, get out, get out. Chapter 87. Let you take a swing at the regiment leader. Damn. How do you pack a backpack? Why does mine seem to fall apart the more I try? In the 4th Squad dormitory, the new recruits were struggling with their backpack straps, getting increasingly frustrated. They didn't understand why they couldn't use the provided bags and had to learn how to pack a backpack instead. Many were actually unaware that packing backpacks has always been an old tradition in our military. Whether in field training or during marches, blankets, mattresses, and various supplies must be carried. For the new recruits, this was a particularly annoying training subject. Why? Because whenever the new recruits' training reached this subject, they had to be on high alert. As for why we should be vigilant, feel free to take a guess. At this moment, Qin Feng has already tied up the stubborn blanket according to the method taught by Zhao Pengfei in the morning, with 3 horizontal and 2 vertical ties. It looks quite neat, almost like a bundle of explosives. However, the little yellow basin at the back looks a bit out of place, resembling a turtle shell. Wow. Vice Class Leader, how did you manage to get it done so quickly? Teach us. No matter how I try, my backpack just won't hold its shape and keeps falling apart. Same here. The moment I touch it, it falls apart completely. I can't carry it at all. Qin Feng glanced around and observed that everyone's backpacks were all uniquely unappealing. Qi Ming's looked like a rice dumpling, while Chun Sanchi's resembled a meatball. Li Jiaxing's was the most ridiculous, resembling a turtle shell pattern. Each had a bit of personal style mixed in. In response to everyone's requests, Qin Feng simply opened his newly tied backpack and demonstrated it again. At this moment, Zhao Pengfei was sitting on a stool by the wall, lost in thought while hugging one leg, looking like a lonely old man in a nursing home, with no one knowing what he was thinking. In the headquarters, in a certain office, Commander Lu Chong was reviewing documents. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Come in. Immediately, Gu Xiong walked in with something in hand. Smiling broadly, upon seeing the visitor, Lu Chong inserted his pen into its cap and paused his work. Gu Xiong, why are you here instead of leading the new recruits? Gu Xiong placed the items on the coffee table and replied with a smile. Commander, I just missed you and wanted to report on recent work. Seeing the items on the table, Lu Chong squinted. Reporting on work with such expensive things? Is this an attempt to bribe me with luxury items? How could that be? Gu Xiong replied seriously. The regiment leader informed me about that matter, so I thought I should come. Lu Chong smiled and raised his hand to stop him. Your Steel Knife Company indeed has solid strength, but I have other intentions in mind. Since you're here, let us have a chat. Gu Xiong immediately sat up straight, his demeanor becoming serious. Lu Chong interlocked his fingers and said earnestly, You've been in the Border Defense Regiment for quite a while now, and you know the difficulties your regiment is currently facing. Among so many regiments, yours is the weakest, while you were quite formidable during wartime. How did it end up like this now? This has been on my mind. Gu Xiong was about to provide an explanation, but was interrupted by the commander. I know you'll attribute the problem to the lack of quality recruits, which leads to a decline year after year. However, every year during personnel allocation, I make it a point to consider sending some good soldiers over. For instance, that Zhao Pengfei from your company, and previously a guy surnamed Wu, were both outstanding performers whom I actively assigned to you. Yet the result is that your steel knife company excels alone, while the other companies are mixed, resembling poorly developed entities. As he spoke, Lu Chong pulled out a plan from the drawer and tossed it to him. Gu Xiong glanced at it, and his expression changed. Commander, are you preparing to reorganize the Border Defense Regiment? It's not a reorganization, it's an optimization. The current structure of the Border Defense Regiment is somewhat bloated. Lu Chong looked at him and said, moreover, Xiao Guohai has been placing too much emphasis on your steel knife company, neglecting the development of other companies. Currently, pulling you out is only temporary. It doesn't mean you are truly a unit under the division. Only by uprooting this large tree can the nutrients spread to other areas. Do you understand what I mean? Gu Xiong nodded, somewhat confused but indicating he understood to some extent. Lu Chong continued, if I no longer intervene actively, the final fate of your Border Defense Regiment will definitely be either disbandment or being replaced by another unit, forcing you to pack your things and leave. Gu Xiong was taken aback. He really hadn't expected the commander to be playing such a big game. No wonder this matter came so suddenly. Without any information leaking out, the commander's tone softened. I once came from the Border Defense Regiment, so I most dislike seeing this once-renowned old unit defeated by Qiu Guohai. I have talked with him more than once. This old fellow actually has ideas and brains, but his efficiency is lacking. And every time it's all talk and little action. He claims he will show me significant changes, yet every time the results are minimal. Therefore, this time I decided to use my own methods to help the Border Defense Regiment achieve optimization and progress. Commander, are you preparing? Gu Xiong became interested. And Lu Chong smiled slightly. I plan to have you pull the Border Defense Regiment's face. Gu Xiong looked as if he had seen a ghost, almost thinking he misheard. Seeing his surprised expression, Lu Chong was not at all surprised. How about it? Did you not expect that? If you didn't see it coming, Qiu Guohai definitely wouldn't. I won't discuss the specifics with you for now, just focus on your new recruit company. And I will tell you how to proceed when it's time for you to return to your company. This is frustrating, keeping me in suspense. But since the commander isn't saying anything, Gu Xiong couldn't press for more. After finishing his explanation, the commander dismissed him, but Gu Xiong did not leave. Commander, I have something I want to ask you. Go ahead. Here's the thing, there's a soldier in the new recruit company that I really like. So I want to know which one you mean. Lu Chong raised his hand to stop him. That kid dared to take credit for his squad leader, Zhao Pengfei, at the commendation meeting. I knew he was not simple. However, technically he belongs to the Border Defense Regiment, and they do need manpower. Here's the deal, if he doesn't give you the soldier, I will allocate a batch of new recruits from the Division S teaching battalion for you. After saying this, the commander didn't give Gu Xiong a chance to respond, and directly sent him away. This left Gu Xiong in a difficult position, feeling quite frustrated. As he left the regiment headquarters, Gu Xiong rubbed his head. Going around in such a big circle made things so complicated. It's really giving me a headache. Chapter 88. Finding joy in hardship. Serious, yet lively. Oh man, I'm exhausted. The 4th squad returned to the dormitory, the new recruits drenched in sweat. Some didn't even unload their gear and just collapsed onto their beds. Some people tossed their blankets onto the bed and jumped on like they were in free fall. Just a moment ago, at 1 o'clock in the morning, they experienced their first emergency assembly in life. The result, of course, was chaos. Then, the squad leader punished everyone by making them run 5 kilometers. Being dragged out of bed in the middle of the night, fully armed. To run 5 kilometers is an incredibly frustrating feeling. Those who have experienced it know exactly what I mean. Although they hadn't fired their weapons yet, the added weight was already making everyone miserable. Plus, carrying things while running made it even worse, as sweat couldn't evaporate. Some even felt, due to psychological effects, that the blankets they were carrying became heavier with each step, as if they weighed 1,000 pounds. Suddenly, the sound of a can opening broke the silence. Wow, what a surprise. How do you still have soda? Give me a sip, just a small one. Don't put it too close to your mouth. The soda belonged to Qi Meng, who had received it as a reward from the squad leader but had been saving it in the corner of the wardrobe. Now, drenched in sweat from running, even though it wasn't cold, taking a sip felt refreshing. Just like that, a can of soda was passed around in the dormitory. Although everyone only had a tiny sip, smiles bloomed on their faces, and they felt immensely satisfied. You should drink less. Leave a sip for the vice squad leader. He hasn't had any yet. Qi Meng snatched the soda bottle from the last person's hand and handed it to Qin Feng. Qin Feng didn't hesitate and thanked him before tilting his head back to pour the last bit of that carbonated sweet drink into his mouth. The bitterness in his mouth transformed into vitality upon contact with the soda. The carbon dioxide helped dissipate some of the heat in his body, making him feel much more comfortable. If it weren't for joining the army, he might never have known what it felt like to finish a 5-kilometer run at dawn. If it weren't for joining the army, who would have realized how useful a small yellow basin could be? If it weren't for joining the army, who could know how delicious it is to gather around a bowl of instant noodles late at night? And no one would have guessed that a 330 milliliters bottle of soda could bring so much joy to a group of men in the middle of the night. Look at the training ground. Suddenly, someone shouted. Everyone rushed to the window to look at the equipment training ground. At that moment, 2 figures were hanging from the pull-up bar, looking like they were drying meat. These 2 individuals had names. One was named Li Jiaxing, and the other Chen Sanqi. They had just received the worst scores in the backpacking exercise, almost like a pile of dung. Zhao Pengfei had been thoroughly scolded by Ge Zhiyong because of them. Therefore, the squad leader tied their hands with backpacks and secured them tightly to the pull-up bar, claiming it was to help them stretch their muscles. In short, they were being hung up. Are you chatty? You like to talk a lot, don't you? Zhao Pengfei, like a devil, kept poking at Li Jiaxing's soft waist with his hands like a snake emerging from its hole. Li Jiaxing was already ticklish, and now with his hands tied to the horizontal bar, he couldn't resist at all. He could only laugh with a flushed face and plead for mercy while struggling in pain. Ha ha ha, class leader. No, it's not me. I'm not a chatterbox. It's him. It's Chen Sanqi. Chen Sanqi. Oh really? Still talking back, huh? Ha ha ha. I really didn't mean it. Class leader, I was wrong. I won't be a chatterbox anymore. Ha ha. Li Jiaxing was being tormented to the point of tears from laughing so hard. He could only twist around like a big maggot, continuously writhing in agony. Immediately, Zhao Pengfei grabbed Chen Sanqi's feet next to him. At times, it looked like he was shaking a blanket, and at other times, like he was tearing apart a chicken. Chen Sanqi was tortured to the brink, screaming like a pig being slaughtered. Are you still being selfish? Don't you care that the casino in Ouching has opened? Class leader, I didn't. That was Li Jiaxing. He's the one being selfish. It hurts. It hurts. I'm asking you if you're being selfish or not. Why are you babbling? I won't do it again. I won't be selfish anymore. From now on, I'll share with you whatever the class leader has. Although they couldn't hear what was said over there, the screams of the 2 carried far. By the window of class 4, everyone crossed their hearts and then put their hands together, reciting a phrase for blessings. It was a way to remotely help these 2 unfortunate guys find peace. Having offended the class leader, neither of them would have a good night. Watching them suffer, I couldn't help but feel sleepy. You know what? I'm a bit tired too, huh? Qi Meng opened his mouth wide and yawned. Then this yawn seemed to be contagious, starting to spread recklessly. Just as the yawn was about to reach him, Qin Feng silently felt it was not good. He wanted to resist, but his jaw uncontrollably opened, and he yawned too. You can't resist it. Yawns are just impossible to fight off. It was already 1:30 a.m., and everyone lay down on their beds. Qin Feng kindly reminded, don't sleep too deeply, or you might have to get active later. Seriously? Could it be that single beds count too? Ignore him. Ignore him. Blues experts count as family. They really didn't understand. Oh dear. Seeing a group of people inexplicably getting hyped up, Qi Meng, that fool, even started beatboxing. Qin Feng almost rolled his eyes to the sky. Do you understand what it means to find joy in hardship? To be serious, yet lively. Chapter 89. No way. It can't be that cruel, right? Stop. Qin Feng grabbed, and the group of clowns immediately stopped, then continued discussing seriously as if nothing had happened. Seriously? This has happened before, and it can happen again? These veterans shouldn't be that clueless, right? I think what the vice class leader said is very likely. Qi Meng said earnestly. I have a martial arts teacher who was a special forces soldier before retirement. Once while having dinner, he said he could assemble quickly 7 or 8 times in one night. It was basically routine, especially during holidays or significant festivals. One could be called for assembly several times in a single night. Hearing this, everyone felt a sense of despair. Just one emergency assembly is already torturous enough. Now it's almost 2 in the morning. If there are several calls, how can anyone survive? This is special operations, and we are just a bunch of rookies. It shouldn't be this outrageous, right? Yes, if we don't sleep, those veterans won't be able to sleep either, right? I bet they still have a shred of conscience and wouldn't be so heartless. Upon hearing such naive remarks, Qin Feng laughed. Let me ask you, if you were a veteran and had the authority to call for an emergency assembly, what would you do? I would absolutely call for assembly 10 or 20 times in one night. Enjoyment first. Whether rookies are tired or not, that's none of my business. As soon as the rookie finished speaking, the dormitory fell silent. That is definitely the standard answer. If you can have fun, who needs sleep? It seems that even if there aren't 10 or 20 calls tonight, the number won't be small. So what should we do? We can't just stay up all night, right? We can sleep, but it has to be in fragmented time. Think back to when you used to stay up all night gaming and still had to go to class the next day, sleeping and waking whenever you could, understand? Once Qin Feng said this, everyone immediately understood. As regulars occupying the last row of the classroom, they were experts at sneaking naps during class and waking up as soon as the teacher arrived. A group of people quickly covered themselves with blankets and began to utilize fragmented time to catch up on sleep. Some clever ones chose to put on all their clothes and socks, preparing to save time when the whistle blows later. But then, when Zhao Pengfei came back and saw this, he kicked them and gave them a good scolding. Not only did they get woken up, but they also had to take off their clothes and get back into bed, which was simply not worth it. Now that the internet is so developed, many rookies research information online before enlisting. They all know that emergency assemblies only happen once or multiple times. So, many are on high alert, secretly cautious. But is it useful? Clearly not. The terrifying aspect of an emergency assembly is that even if you know the veterans will mess with you at night, you still have to obediently endure it. Packing your backpack in advance. Sleeping without taking off your clothes? None of that exists. The squad leader will not give you a chance to prepare. At 2:30 in the morning, most people had already fallen asleep. Even if some tried to stay awake, they were still overwhelmed by drowsiness. The harsh sound erupted in their ears once again. This time, it was not about packing bags, but directly getting dressed and going downstairs for assembly. Throughout the night, there were a total of 6 emergency assembly calls, lasting until dawn. The rookie's actual sleep time added up to no more than 2.5 hours. Even Qin Feng felt exhausted, his whole body sticky and heavy. Just like after 2 consecutive nights of gaming, needing to rush to school for morning classes at 7. If someone as strong as Qin Feng felt this way, you can imagine how the others fared. One by one, their eyes were as red as rabbits, with dark circles almost drooping to the ground. Especially this morning during the run, it was quite a spectacle. Friends, have you ever seen someone running with their eyes closed? Have you seen anyone standing in line, eyes wide open, suddenly starting to snore? Or have you ever witnessed someone having breakfast in the cafeteria, only to have their head crash into the bowl of porridge? Qin Feng saw all of this with his own eyes. Of course, he also noticed the ugly faces of the veterans secretly enjoying the new recruits' suffering. Clearly, whenever the veterans see the new recruits struggling, they collectively turn into spectators for their amusement. Fortunately, the veterans didn't hassle anyone during lunch. Instead, they granted everyone time to catch up on sleep and even approved going to bed. In the military, the goal isn't to torment you, but to ensure that the new recruits remember their lessons and stay alert at all times. Only then can soldiers react quickly when danger arises. Dragonflies flew low, and the clouds hung heavily overhead. The afternoon sky was gloomy, and the air pressure was low, giving the impression that it might rain at any moment. Many people were secretly hoping that the rain would come soon, as they naively thought that if it rained, the day's training would be cancelled. However, this was just a beautiful dream. Whether it rains or pours, training would still go on. Beep. The whistle blew on the playground. Zhao Pengfei glanced over at the squad leader of the 6th squad and then coldly announced, "We will now conduct an equipment assessment by platoon. Those who fail will have their dinner cancelled tonight." What? Many people's faces immediately turned grim, clearly worried that they wouldn't pass. What are you complaining about? If you don't meet the training standards, do you still expect to eat? Missing a meal won't kill you. Zhao Pengfei didn't give anyone a chance to complain and issued orders directly. Stand at attention. At ease. All personnel, stand straight. In an instant, everyone snapped to attention. Right turn, march to the training ground. Duck, duck, goose. Chapter 90. Is it refreshing to train in the rain? Let us make it even more refreshing. On the southwest side of the training ground, all the soldiers from the 2nd platoon gathered together, ready to start the equipment assessment. The 4th squad, being the lead, was the first to begin the assessment. Li Jiaqing, here. Platoon leader Zhou Shangfei, holding a roster, pointed at the horizontal bar with his head. Li Jiaqing immediately responded and jogged over. But he didn't rush to jump. Instead, he grabbed a handful of fine sand to wipe the sweat off his hands. Details, that's what matters. Li Jiaqing silently praised himself before leaping up to grab the bar. 1, 2, 3, 3.5, 4. For the 5th one, Li Jiaqing gritted his teeth and managed to pull himself up. As for the last one, he really struggled to get up. So, he had to resort to pedaling in the air and using a dragon tail technique to force his body up. Fortunately, this routine assessment wasn't particularly strict. As long as the chin goes over the bar, it's counted as 1. Therefore, in the end, Zhou Shangfei recorded 6 for him, just enough to meet the passing line. When Li Jiaqing came down from the bar, he felt refreshed, even a bit smug, as if he had just won an Olympic medal. 1 less breakdown, 1 less waste. Meeting the passing line meant dinner was secured. Next up was Chen Sanchi. This kid's foundation was simply too weak. He managed 5, but couldn't pull up the 6th no matter what. This was even with Zhao Pengfei giving him extra help. Otherwise, for would have probably been his limit. Indeed, Yesterday, Zhao Pengfei had them practice on the bar as preparation for today's equipment assessment. Many new recruits lacked training before enlisting, and even after more than a month in the camp, it was difficult for them to pull up 6. Therefore, to help the new recruits pass the assessment, Zhao Pengfei, as the squad leader, had to use some unconventional methods. As a result, Li Jiaxing passed smoothly, but Qin Sanchi failed. When he came down from the bar, his face was as bitter as a gourd because not only did he fail the assessment, but he also had to go hungry that night. After that, the members of the 4th squad gradually completed their assessments, and all reached the passing line. After all, they had been in the army for over a month, and their physical fitness had improved significantly. The standout was Qi Ming, who managed to pull up 13, directly achieving an excellent score. Good. Zhou Shangfei noted the score in his notebook and nodded at Qi Ming. He was the first new recruit to achieve an excellent score on the pull-ups so far. Finally, it was Qin Feng's turn. As a well-known star recruit in the company, he attracted everyone's attention wherever he went. Everyone, including the veterans, was curious to see how many pull-ups Qin Feng could do. Let's start. As soon as Zhou Shangfei finished speaking, Qin Feng jumped up and grabbed the bar. His body was straight, and his movements were standard. 1, 2, 3 under everyone's gaze. Qin Feng quickly completed 10. However, at that moment, it was clear to everyone that he was starting to struggle. Just as people were guessing how many more he could do, he suddenly let go of the bar and jumped down. 13, excellent. Zhou Shangfei frowned slightly and recorded it in his notebook. The other recruits felt a sense of, is that it? In fact, most of the recruits currently couldn't do 13 pull-ups. But for this hero who had received first-class merit, everyone held some special expectations, thinking that Qin Feng should surpass everyone and be the best. Just like in the previous 3-kilometer assessment, he was either silent or astonishing. So when everyone saw that Qin Feng just barely met the excellent standard, there was a bit of disappointment. Even Qi Ming felt that Qin Feng must have held back. Why didn't you continue? You could have done 2 more. Qin Feng didn't hide it. What is the point? Qi Ming was taken aback. What do you mean? You can do more? Let everyone envy you? Qin Feng smiled and shook his head. This is just a routine test. As long as you meet the excellent standard, that's enough. Doing a few more won't make a difference. Besides, we have the parallel bars next, so there's no need to push too hard. Qi Ming was momentarily speechless, unable to respond. But upon reflection, it did seem quite reasonable. It even led him to a bit of life philosophy. Not every moment requires you to give your all. You should show your abilities when it counts. For these small routine tests, there's no need to stand out too much. You have to leave some space for others. Zhao Pengfei looked at Qin Feng, his eyes filled with meaning. This guy was still as balanced as ever, neither arrogant nor impatient. The assessment continued, with most of the new recruits hovering around the passing mark. A few, who were physically fit, managed to reach 12 or 13. Soon, everyone gathered at the parallel bars. The standard was the same, 6 for passing and 13 for excellence. In Class 4, besides Qin Sanchi, there was also a new recruit named Xie Bin from Shiguang who didn't pass. Qin Feng's score was also 13, just right. Even so, this was already considered quite outstanding in the equipment assessment. After the assessment, the classes regrouped. For the 2 who didn't pass, Zhao Pengfei naturally didn't show any leniency. You've been slacking off in training, and now you mess up during the test. Do you know that your assessment scores will directly affect your assignment to the next unit? Qin Sanchi and the new recruit, Xie Bin, were scolded to the point where they couldn't lift their heads. Qin Feng felt helpless about this. Such matters could only rely on their own efforts. At that moment, a smell of earth suddenly filled the air. Raindrops slid down from the sky, splattering on the playground and forming water spots. Soon, a light rain began to fall, turning everyone's camouflage uniforms a deep green. It's raining. Finally raining. The new recruits smiled. Their spirits immediately lifted. But just when they thought outdoor training would be cancelled, Zhao Pengfei's words hit them hard. Next, I will lead you all in your first rain training of your military career. Damn. The new recruits immediately felt discontent. Their expressions visibly showed their disappointment. As an experienced soldier, Zhao Pengfei could easily see through their desire to slack off. The rainwater slid down his hat brim, forming a line in front of him. Yet his gaze remained sharp. Do you think that because it's raining, you can skip training? You can hide in the dormitory and slack off? Let me tell you. The worse the weather, the more we need to train. Do you know why? He asked, and answered loudly. Because the enemy won't stop attacking just because the weather is bad. On the contrary, in such nasty weather, the enemy is more likely to launch a surprise attack. War never stops because of weather conditions. As soldiers, you must learn to adapt to such harsh weather. Now, Zhao Pengfei suddenly shouted, "Follow my command. Everyone to the playground for a 5-kilometer run." Yes, the new recruits dared not slack off, quickly rushing onto the track. They splashed through puddles in the rain. After more than 20 minutes, everyone regrouped in front of Zhao Pengfei. Looking at the drenched group, Zhao Pengfei grinned. Running in the rain, is it refreshing? Refreshing. Everyone yelled. How strange. They were soaked and sticky, feeling as if they had been vacuum sealed. Even their underwear clung uncomfortably, making it quite unbearable. Very well. Since that's the case, I'll make it even more enjoyable for you. Zhao Pengfei shouted loudly. Next, we will conduct a long-awaited training session, military boxing. Everyone's eyes lit up. Squad leader, if you're going to talk about this, then I'm really excited. Many joined the military not just to shoot, but also to practice martial arts. Although they had encountered military boxing during high school training, the watered-down version outside couldn't compare to what they would learn in the military. Qin Feng's impression of military boxing was not very deep, but relearning it would certainly add another skill to his repertoire. At this moment, the happiest one was Qi Ming. For martial artists, this training was his home ground. Zhao Pengfei, seeing the eager expressions on their faces, suddenly broke into a mischievous grin. However, before starting the training, everyone needed to warm up to avoid injuries while boxing. Seeing the squad leader's strange smile, everyone felt a bad premonition. On the playground, the new recruits from the 4th squad raised their hands in a V shape on either side of their heads, bouncing up and down like rabbits. Zhao Pengfei recited a tongue twister, claiming it would help everyone improve their sense of rhythm. This rabbit hop was even more exhausting than frog jumps. It not only strained their legs, but also their abs, and even Qin Feng had to grit his teeth to keep going. After just 20 minutes, many could hardly stand. Especially Chen Sanchi, who looked as if he had just given birth, swaying like a leaf in the wind. The only upside was that they had indeed loosened up their bodies. Zhao Pengfei didn't say much and directly started teaching military boxing. He first demonstrated it quickly, then began explaining each move step by step. The first position was the ready stance. Upon hearing the command to prepare for military boxing, step out to the right wider than shoulder width, taking a horse stance, with the left fist clenched and palm facing inward, the left fist slightly lower. With a shout, Zhao Pengfei executed a lunging punch. The new recruits followed suit, imitating him. Next came the throat strike and horse stance horizontal punches. Although this set of military boxing lacked some of the dominance and aggression compared to the Black Dragon 18 styles the squad leader had previously demonstrated, it was still a valuable training session. However, the moves remained sharp and visually striking. Zhao Pengfei first led everyone through the routine twice, then stopped demonstrating and began calling out commands. When he called out for counterattacks or turning techniques, everyone had to react quickly and perform the corresponding actions. Additionally, while executing the moves, they were required to shout out loudly to enhance the momentum and make the techniques appear more intimidating. This vigorous atmosphere bore a resemblance to the training style of martial monks from a certain temple. After nearly an hour of practice, Zhao Pengfei started pairing everyone up for sparring. Although it was called sparring, it felt more like a sequence of martial arts moves practiced together. To put it plainly, it was a bit of a chaotic exchange. Initially, the new recruits were taking turns quite normally, engaging in a back and forth that resembled Tai Chi pushing hands. However, as they continued, Li Jiarong and Chen Sanchi, two rather foolish individuals, began to improvise. Seizing the opportunity while Zhao Pengfei was distracted, they mimicked scenes from a comedic film, executing exaggerated moves like the black tiger steals heart and white crane spreads wings, and even doing playful pecking motions like children, thoroughly enjoying themselves. Then, they ended up with a large footprint on their backsides, almost falling into the mud. I told you to spar, not to mess around. Zhao Pengfei scolded. Military boxing is a combat technique meant to defeat the enemy. You all need to take it seriously. From now on, imagine the person in front of you is your enemy, and you have to really fight. The recruits exchanged glances, hesitant to actually go through with it. After all, they were in the same unit. How could they really fight? On the other side, Qi Ming's partner, a guy named Xie Bin, was particularly anxious. He genuinely feared that Qi Ming might go too hard and end up sending him to the medical unit. Class Vice, can we switch? I really don't want to fight this violent guy. Please, I beg you. May you live a peaceful life. Xie Bin pleaded with Qin Feng nearby, hoping to switch partners. Qin Feng agreed, but it wasn't because of Xie Bin's flattering remarks. It was simply his duty as the vice squad leader to help a comrade. Seeing that no one was willing to engage, Zhao Pengfei's expression turned serious. The purpose of learning military boxing is to enhance soldiers' hand-to-hand combat abilities. If they only practice sequences without real engagement, it wouldn't serve any practical purpose. If they wanted to improve in combat and have a killer instinct in their boxing, they needed to be genuine. Besides, it had just rained, and the muddy ground wouldn't hurt too much if they fell. At most, their clothes would get a little dirty. Still not willing to engage. Now you want to play this camaraderie game? Fine. Zhao Pengfei cracked his knuckles ominously. From now on, if anyone doesn't engage or tries to play tricks, I'll take them on myself. Just as he finished speaking, Li Jiarong received a punch to the face. He covered his eyes, looking at Chen Sanchi in disbelief. You dare to hit me? Sorry, I don't want to get disciplined by the squad leader. Damn it, so you sneak attack me? Take this, bow stance punch, punch. And another punch. Li Jiaxing unleashed a flurry of wild swings directly at Qin Sanchi. Seeing someone take the lead, the others no longer held back. Both sides began exchanging blows, seriously engaging in combat. However, their moves looked nothing like the military combat drills they were taught. Yet, Zhao Pengfei had no intention of stopping them. Whether it was wild swings or frenzied strikes didn't matter. What mattered was how to cultivate everyone's courage and fighting spirit. Fighting was the key to igniting passion and helping new recruits grow quickly. Just like boxers, before formally learning to fight, they must first learn to take hits and endure blows. Squad second, my strikes might be a bit heavy, my apologies. Qi Ming grinned at Qin Feng, looking utterly confident. Qin Feng curled his fingers in a beckoning gesture, a smile also appearing on his face. No problem. Come at me with all you've got. Qi Ming grunted in acknowledgement, immediately launching his fists and feet toward Qin Feng. He used moves he had just learned from the military combat drills. While dodging, Qin Feng countered each move as it came. All of Qi Ming's attempts to strike ended in failure. Not bad, squad second. This is getting interesting. Come on. Let's keep going. Qin Feng was starting to get into the rhythm as well. Opportunities like this were usually too rare. He had to take full advantage of this chance to test his actual combat skills. Qin Feng's effortless demeanor only fueled Qi Ming's competitive spirit. Although he respected Qin Feng as a person and admired his courage and determination when saving others, when it came to hand-to-hand combat, Qi Ming prided himself on being unbeatable by anyone in the new recruit company, even some of the veterans. Initially, Qi Ming thought he could overpower Qin Feng within 5 moves. But as the fight went on, he realized something was off. Damn, why can't I break through his defenses? Uncomfortable with the military combat drills, Qi Ming instinctively switched to his most familiar style, Bajiquan. But then, something strange happened. As Qi Ming took a large step forward with his left foot and assumed a bow-drawing posture, Qin Feng, across from him, simultaneously adopted the exact same Bajiquan stance. He even flashed a provocative smile at Qi Ming. Chapter 92. Full Comprehension, Stealing Mastery. Whoa, am I seeing things? Li Jiaxing and Qin Sanchi both stopped what they were doing, rubbing their eyes in disbelief. Everyone else wore equally stunned expressions, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Even Zhao Pengfei tilted his head, a series of question marks popping up in his mind. He knew Qi Ming practiced Bajiquan, but how did Qin Feng know it too? From the precision of his movements, he could tell Qin Feng wasn't just fooling around. This was the real deal. Center elbow strike. Qi Ming executed a close-range elbow strike aimed at the chest. At the same time, Qin Feng slightly lowered his stance, dodging the attack while using his waist to generate force, driving his elbow toward Qi Ming's shoulder. Qi Ming took 2 steps back in pain, his eyes filled with shock. How can you also use the elbow strike? Have you learned Bajiquan? Qin Feng smiled and shook his head. I have indeed learned it, and I learned it from you. Learned from me? Qi Ming was even more confused. He didn't remember a classmate named Qin Feng, let alone a junior with such impressive skills. Qin Feng calmly said, you were sparring with the class leader earlier, and I secretly picked up a few moves. How was it? Not bad, right? Qi Ming's eyes were nearly popping out. He learned it just by watching once. How is that possible? Bajiquan is not that easy to learn. He himself practiced for 4 to 5 years to reach his current level. Yet Qin Feng claimed he learned it by just watching? I don't believe it. You must have practiced before. Qi Ming knew he couldn't accept this. So Qin Feng simply stopped explaining. The Bajiquan he learned was indeed a replication he created using a system, and he practiced it secretly when no one was around. Now, he was eager to see how his combat skills measured up in real practice. Without a doubt, Qi Ming was the best opponent he could find at the moment. Continue. Qin Feng waved at him, signaling him to come again. But this time, Qi Ming calmed down and turned to Zhao Pengfei. Zhao Pengfei was also full of questions, as he didn't believe Qin Feng's Bajiquan was newly learned either. As a veteran who practiced Sanda before joining the military and had mixed various combat techniques, he knew how much hard work it takes to learn a fighting skill. However, the moves Qin Feng just executed were definitely not random. Although Qin Feng's momentum was slightly weaker than Qi Ming's, he excelled in agility. So, even though Qi Ming was stronger, he still found it relatively easy to deal with him. This made Zhao Pengfei start to suspect whether Qin Feng had practiced martial arts before joining the military, but had deliberately concealed it. To verify this suspicion, Zhao Pengfei nodded at Qi Ming, signaling him to continue. After receiving permission, Qi Ming loosened his arms and twisted his neck, preparing to get serious. Previously, he had held back because he considered Qin Feng to be the deputy squad leader who hadn't practiced martial arts. But it seemed that Qin Feng was also a skilled fighter. Since that was the case, he could naturally go all out. Here I come, Qi Ming shouted, and quickly charged at Qin Feng. Bajiquan emphasizes close combat. The closer you get, the harder you hit. The sound of fists and kicks echoed as Qin Feng kept retreating, gradually falling into a disadvantage. There was no way around it. His skills were limited, and he couldn't compete with the authentic Qi Ming. However, what Qin Feng knew was not just Bajiquan. Seizing the opportunity, He went for a direct eye poke and throat strike. Qi Ming was startled, instinctively closing his eyes while shielding himself. Qin Feng then executed an unexpected move, which was known as a flash and strike. Watching Qi Ming clamp his legs together with a yelp, the onlookers all felt a tightening sensation, swallowing hard. Zhao Pengfei's eyes widened in shock, his jaw almost dropping to the ground. The Black Dragon 18 techniques. This is unbelievable. Qin Feng isn't just skilled in Bejiquan. He also knows the Black Dragon 18 techniques. Could it be that he secretly learned it while sparring with Qi Ming when he first joined the army? In such a short time, and to master two styles at once, this kid is truly a martial arts genius. Just like that, Zhao Pengfei equated Qin Feng with the likes of Gui Jing, Yang Guo, and Zhang Wuji, all of whom are renowned martial arts talents. If he were to enter a martial arts competition and register for a fighting event, he would definitely stand out and earn a place. Such an outstanding soldier. If he can't be taken along when he is reassigned, he would surely suffer from insomnia for nights on end. At the same time, Qi Ming finally recognized the style Qin Feng was using. But before he could figure out when Qin Feng learned the Black Dragon 18 techniques, a gust of wind rushed toward him. Iron Mountain. Qin Feng let out a low roar and charged forward, his shoulder acting like a shield. Caught off guard, Qi Ming was knocked back 2 to 3 meters and fell to the ground. In that moment, his mind went completely blank. He began to believe Qin Feng's claims. If he only knew Bejiquan, it could be that he learned it from a class before joining the army or practiced with videos. But to know both Bejiquan and the Black Dragon 18 techniques? The odds were too low. The only explanation was that Qin Feng had indeed learned it just by watching once. At this moment, Qi Ming felt a wave of frustration wash over him. He could bring all his strength to defeat Qin Feng, but would it even matter? The guy could just take a glance and practice casually, yet perform so well. Qi Ming always thought he had some talent, but now it seemed that all his years of Bejiquan practice had gone to waste. Just then, a hand reached out to him, pulling Qi Ming back up. Ready for more? Let's go? Qi Ming's fighting spirit was ignited by Qin Feng. As he rejoined the battle, Qin Feng absorbed everything like a sponge. This scene left the surrounding veteran squad leaders in awe. It was only at this moment that they realized how little they knew about Qin Feng. In the 4th Squad dormitory, the new recruits surrounded Qin Feng, chattering excitedly. Brother Feng, you're amazing. When did you learn Bejiquan? Can you teach me? Deputy Squad Leader, I really didn't see it coming. You're actually a rare talent. Do you know any divine techniques? I'm willing to pay a high price. Deputy Squad Leader, how did you learn it? Any tips? Teach us, please. Qin Feng was overwhelmed by the questions and casually made up a story, saying he had learned a few moves in a class before joining the army. But they were just flashy techniques. Earlier, Qi Ming had been deliberately holding back, which was why they had been exchanging blows. After hearing this, some recruits gathered around Qi Ming, clamoring to learn Bejiquan. Previously, they thought it was too difficult to learn, so they hadn't expressed interest. But now, seeing how cool Qin Feng looked while fighting, they felt it must be easy to learn and were eager to try. Suddenly, a voice called from downstairs, all squads, gather. As Qin Feng stepped out, he unexpectedly ran into Zhao Pengfei in the hallway. Qin Feng, come here for a moment, I need to talk to you about something. Have you practiced martial arts? Zhao Pengfei asked curiously, looking at Qin Feng. No, I haven't. Qin Feng shook his head. I just picked up a few things by watching. Maybe I have some talent, he added. Zhao Pengfei could only choose to believe Qin Feng's explanation. In this vast world, there are all kinds of wonders. Some people work hard their whole lives, but can't compare to those with exceptional talent. Zhao Pengfei smiled and said, no matter what, this is definitely a plus for you. With such strong learning ability, you should learn more useful professional knowledge. He continued, in the army, there are plenty of people who can run fast or fight well, but those with technical skills are always in demand. Especially those who excel in technical fields are highly sought after. Qin Feng nodded, I understand, Sergeant. In my spare time, I've been reading some military books to learn more. Recently, I just read about the practical tactics of reconnaissance soldiers, as well as books on reconnaissance infiltration and counter-reconnaissance. Zhao Pengfei was quite pleased with Qin Feng's initiative to learn. Many joined the army to escape studying, especially disliking reading. However, Qin Feng was eager to learn, which was a good thing. You already have a first-class merit. When you go back to your unit, you 1T need to take exams. You can be directly promoted and sent to military school. Here, time is fragmented, and the things you can learn are limited. Zhao Pengfei continued to advise like a caring elder. Qin Feng listened earnestly, knowing that this knowledge would be useful in the future. All right, you should go eat now. I need to stop by the company commander's office, so I 1T join you for dinner. Okay, I'll head back then. In the evening, after finishing dinner at the cafeteria, Qin Feng saw Chen Sanqi and Xiabin sitting on small stools with their hands on their cheeks, staring blankly. They sat facing each other, sighing in unison, looking quite dejected. For soldiers, the most anticipated part of the day is mealtime. However, they were penalized and missed dinner because they didn't pass the equipment assessment. Qin Feng smiled slightly and said to Li Jiaxing, "You go stand by the door and keep an eye on things." "Huh? Why? Just go when I tell you to." Then, Qin Feng magically pulled out 2 dragon fruits from behind his back. "Chen Sanqi, Xie Bin, come over and eat." "Wow, where did this come from?" The two were filled with surprise at the sight of food. "I quietly took them while no one was paying attention." "Hurry up and eat," Qin Feng whispered. "Make sure the sergeant doesn't find out, or I'll be punished with you." Upon hearing this, Chen Sanqi and Xie Bin were almost moved to tears. "Brother Feng, I knew you were the best. You can't bear to see us hungry. Squad Vice, you're simply the most handsome person I've ever seen." In this day and age, dragon fruit is still considered a rare treat. In the military, supplies are limited. Qin Feng managed to bring back 2, which was essentially like bringing back 2 pieces of meat. Moreover, dragon fruit is high in sugar, and its flesh is dense, so eating it can be quite filling. The 2 of them each held a dragon fruit, squatting in the corner and tearing the skin open to devour it ravenously. Watching them eat, everyone felt a bit hesitant to compliment them, as they were close to swallowing the skin as well. In just a few seconds, the dragon fruits were completely gone. At that moment, footsteps were heard outside. "Oh no, the squad leader is coming," Li Jiaxing shouted, and everyone quickly returned to their places. Chen Sanqi and Xie Bin were startled and hurried back to their positions. Soon, the squad leader walked in holding a box of biscuits. He knew that there were 2 troublemakers in the class who hadn't had dinner, so he specifically requested some biscuits from the instructor. While they hadn't been given dinner, it wasn't stated that they couldn't have snacks, right? Zhao Pengfei thought this didn't really break his own rules. However, when he entered the dormitory and saw Chen Sanqi and the others, he was taken aback. "What? Why are you 2 bleeding?" he exclaimed. "You missed just 1 meal. It shouldn't be this exaggerated." The 2 exchanged glances and then realized their teeth were stained red. "Oh no, we forgot it was red flesh dragon fruit." They quickly awkwardly licked their teeth, saying they had gum bleeding. Zhao Pengfei rushed over, pinching their mouths to check. It turned out to be a false alarm, and he glared at them with annoyance. "Did you 2 sneak some dragon fruit from the cafeteria?" The 2 looked at Qin Feng with guilt, and then shook their heads in unison, insisting it was just gum bleeding. Zhao Pengfei's eyelid twitched, thinking, "You 2 are terrible liars. The dragon fruit skin is still under the bed." However, he didn't press further because he didn't have the heart to let them go hungry. "Didn't you eat enough?" "Uh-huh. Here, take some biscuits to fill your stomach." Zhao Pengfei handed them the biscuits and reminded them to work hard in training and take it seriously. They should strive for improvement in the next equipment assessment and aim to pass. As they munched on the biscuits like little hamsters, they nodded vigorously in agreement. Qin Feng couldn't help but laugh at the scene, and soon everyone in the class was laughing along. After lights out at 10, the new recruits of Class 4 faced physical training again. But this time, it was 3 sets of 200 instead of 3 sets of 100. The training load for the recruits was never constant. It gradually increased over time. Now, everyone was panting and sweating after completing high knees on the spot. But Zhao Pengfei was smiling and joking. "Let me ask you a question." Everyone looked up, unsure of what kind of antics he was about to pull. "Do you want a wife or not?" "Huh, we do." "All right, I'll give you one tomorrow." Faced with Zhao Pengfei's nonsensical remarks, everyone looked bewildered. Only Qin Feng suddenly reacted. He was even a bit impatient, wanting to bring this wife home. Is there a clever friend who can guess what the wife mentioned by the squad leader is? All the handsome guys and pretty girls can show some love with free gifts. And hit that button for updates and follows, please. Chapter 94, Comrades and Second Life. We're about to receive our firearms. How does everyone feel? Just chatting casually, Qimeng? In the dormitory, Zhao Pengfei asked Qimeng, who was squatting on the floor pressing his bedding. A bit nervous. Qimeng raised his head and said somewhat awkwardly, "You still get nervous?" Zhao Pengfei laughed and patted him, then looked at the others. The new recruits all raised their heads, showing genuine smiles. Most responses were nervous, excited, and joyful. "Qin Feng, how about you?" "Just like everyone else." Qin Feng scratched his head and said honestly. Zhao Pengfei laughed heartily. Nervousness and excitement are normal reactions. In the army, the bedding is our first wife, and the firearm is the second. Squad leader, so who is the first wife and who is the second? Li Jiaxing chimed in with a grin. No particular order, one is for the outside, the other for the inside. Both are important. Zhao Pengfei's answer made everyone burst into laughter. That's right, the wife Zhao Pengfei mentioned before sleeping was indeed the firearm. Why such a playful term? The reason is simple. Because through wind and rain, the firearm will accompany you. Moreover, there are 2 things in the army that you must not touch. One is the bedding, and the other is the firearm, especially the sniper's rifle. If you dare to touch it, especially the sensitive scope, they might really come after you. Beep beep. Suddenly, a hurried whistle sounded from downstairs. Everyone immediately stood up excitedly, and even Qin Feng felt a bit of excitement. Zhao Pengfei fastened his gear, put on his hat, and smiled. "Line up at the door, follow me downstairs, and you will receive your firearms right away." "Yes." Everyone's faces were filled with joyful smiles. Clearly, they could hardly wait to bring this firearm wife home. In the open space in front of the flag platform, all classes of the new recruits had gathered. At this moment, each new recruit stood tall and proud, full of spirit, truly resembling grooms eagerly waiting for their brides. The firearm is forever a man's romance. It is also the aspiration of every passionate young man. Many young people join the military just to be able to shoot. Looking at the long table in front, lined with 3-type automatic rifles adorned with red ribbons, everyone couldn't hide their excitement.